party regulations stipulate that all presidential aspirants must, among other things, be nominated by at least 2,000 voters from each of the majority counties. As at May 16th, the deadline for political parties and independent candidates to submit names of aspirants intending to participate at the polls, IEBC, had received the names of 55 presidential aspirants. Now, Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua have been forced to scale the mountain on their own without the presence of the President Uhuru Kenyatta. This as President Uhuru Kenyatta has changed tactic and instead will be running the show behind the scenes. The head of state earlier stated that he will get out and campaign when the right time comes.
Unataka kuishi kuongea siasa mchana mpaka usiku, na wakati nilisema hivyo nikasema jameni, kwa heshima kwanza tufanye kazi, tutarudi wakati wa siasa ukifika. Nikaambiwa wewe huna uwezo wa kutuambia tuache. Nikasema sasa hii mambo ya kutangatanga, akasema wacha sisi tutangatange. Nikasema basi wala kama hivyo ndivyo umeona ndio inakutosheleza, endeleeni. Sisi na wale tumebaki tufanye kipindi cha siasa sikifika, tutakuja tuseme na yetu sisi. Sasa kipindi ya siasa imekuja na mtatusikia.
Jubilee Chairman David Murathe says the president's reason for withdrawing from the campaign at the moment is to give Raila the opportunity to run his own campaign with Kenyatta as the head of state focuses on finishing his term. He stated that President Kenyatta will not participate in the campaign directly but will be giving advice and leadership on them. Murathe also made it clear that Kenyatta's absence on the announcement of Raila's running mate Martha Karua does not mean he is opposed to Karua's nomination. Now, as the August 9th general elections continue to draw closer, Deputy President William Ruto continues to woo Kenyans to give him their votes. In a meeting with leaders from Kiambu County, the DP said that the upcoming elections is important for the country as it seeks to end the politics of deceit, sentiments shared by Garissa MP Ednah Duale.
The source of division in Kenya is the politics of deceit, conmanship of leaders against other leaders. That is how this country gets divided. That's how the people of Kenya get divided. And the only place where we can unify this country is to get rid of the politicians whose stock in trade is deceit and conmanship. And we know them. And this year, the people of Kenya are going to make a decision.
So this election is going to end the careers of leaders who believe in the politics of conmanship and deceit.
Now, KANU National Chairperson and incumbent Baringo Senator Gideon Moi will now be seeking to defend his seat in this year's August 9th general elections. The party Secretary General Nick Slat said Moi's name has already been forwarded to the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. Moi's re-entry to the Baringo Senate race now sets the stage for a battle for political control of Rift Valley with DP Ruto, who has been seen as enjoying much of the region's support in the lead up to the August polls. Slat, however, says KANU aims at maximizing on the DP Ruto-led UDA party's losses, especially in areas which were highly contested during the nominations. Now, Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir has unveiled Francis Thoy as his running mate ahead of the August general elections. Abdul Samad, who will be running on an ODM party ticket, made the announcement as he laid out his manifesto for the county. The Mvita MP similarly called on electorates to uphold peace during the electioneering period and shun divisive and tribal politics. And Captorate Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi's lawyers have been ordered to tender evidence showing that the lawmaker is out of the jurisdiction for treatment. This is after Sudi failed to appear in court for the hearing of his forgery case, with his lawyers seeking adjournment, claiming he is in Turkey. The court, however, said the evidence presented by the legislators' lawyers to back their claims did not disclose the details of the hospital in Turkey where Sudi is allegedly receiving treatment. Trial Magistrate Felix Kombo also stated that grounds for adjournment because its election time does not hold any merit. The court further directed the lawyers to get instructions from Sudi whether the matter can go on without his presence. In the case, Sudi is charged with forging a diploma certificate in business management from the Kenya Institute of Management. And former police spokesperson Charles Owino has dropped out of the race for Siaya County Governor, where he was set to deputize ex-Rarieda MP Nicholas Gumbo. More on this in our next bulletin. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refuse to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani maternity hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it
own
up.
money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he was cleaning. He cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, on this Thursday morning, let's take a look at what's going on in the city. Not much coming off of the Thika Superhighway this morning, and it's going to be really slow from all indications later on, though. But for now, easy street, literally. Coming off Mombasa Road, going into the city, that looks also pretty good. Don't forget, some turnings have been blocked off. So we're looking at coming into the city just around General Motors, and you're going inbound to the CBD. It's going to narrow out because there's some work that's being done on that particular road. So just remember, if you see some traffic, it's being caused by that. It started really early this morning. We're likely to see that it will continue for some time. Coming off Thika Superhighway also looks pretty good. Coming out of Westlands this morning, some traffic on Waiyaki Way. Don't forget, skip on over to the Red Hill Link Road. There's your option to get out into the city much quicker. Okay, let's talk in about half hour or so. See how it's opening up and how it's panning out to be for traffic this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Thursday.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
The only way to start your day this Thursday, the 19th of May, 2022. Good morning. A few minutes after 6 o'clock. Yes, 6 o'clock. 9 minutes past 6. Habari zenu asubuhi. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I did?
Yes.
Habari zenu asubuhi. Can you say that, or is that...
You can.
Okay. Everything is all right?
Everything is all right. I usually say, I stick with hamjambo. It is simpler.
Easy to remember?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mimi sasa pia, niko salama.
Na wewe iko jambo.
Mimi iko jambo. Mimi iko salama kabisa.
Yes.
Sasa, Eric Latiff amepotea.
Oh,
let's see how long I can go with this Kiswahili. Eric Latiff amepotea.
Amepotea wapi?
Sijui.
Oh, of course. Ingalikuwa unajua mahali amepotea, hangepotea, sio? So that is correct. You don't know where he is. So when I ask where is he, you don't know. It is true. That's why he is lost, because you don't know. Hujui. Lakini atatokea. Wajua Nairobi pia ni Nairobi.
Acha tuone.
Mambo ya asubuhi pia sasa zingine ni mambo ya asubuhi. Lakini atatokelezea tu.
Atatokelezea. Lakini wewe uko salama kabisa?
Mimi nashukuru niko mzima.
Nimefurahi kukuona leo asubuhi.
Jamani leo.
Wacha tu tuseme ni leo basi.
Leo ni leo. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good to have you here with us. Ndu and CT. Eric will be with us soon. All things remaining constant. Asanteni for joining us this morning. Many conversations to reflect today, taking a look at what's happening in the country and around the world. We will be talking, yes, we will. Afro-Cities opened up yesterday. The president opened up this particular conference that's taking place in Kisumu County, and talking about development and infrastructure and bringing together very many partners. Today, we'll have a conversation with Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, and we'll be looking at why this conference is important, some of the issues then that are being discussed here and there, and that is a conversation that we will be having at 8 o'clock today. Okay, so that and other conversations lined up for you today, and we're glad that you can join us in the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation today. Other conversations taking place through the day, and of course we're going to ask you to join us with that. All right, as we get into the morning, let's take a look at what's happening with COVID around the world. We're now at 525,038,045 new cases. We're looking at a situation which the World Health Organization has told us, and has told many development partners and many medical practitioners, that please don't think this thing has completely gone out the window. Vigilance is important. Vigilance is still required. So it's important for us to take it as seriously as possible. Many are also saying that, well, he has not spoken out of turn, the Director General, that what we see happening in North Korea now is testament to this, that you can think we're done and then suddenly, boom, 1 million people are at risk of being infected with COVID-19. So there's a conversation to take really seriously as far as that is concerned. Okay, so what else is happening around the world? Most countries have opened up their borders. Everybody's saying, let's get back to factory settings and be able to deal with things as we see them. All right, in the country, we're looking at a positivity rate of 1%, bang on, from the latest sample size. Under 20 new cases recorded in the last 24 hours. So numbers are still looking pretty good. And again, these numbers are taken from those who've had to travel or those who need a particular certificate having been deemed COVID-free. All right, that's what it looks like in terms of COVID this morning. I mean, and then, of course, the vaccine issue with having the vaccine plant established in Kenya, the talks continue. More and more, the likelihood of this happening in, many coming months will be. And, CT, we talked about the importance of having something like this, because then other vaccines then can be done. It's just not a COVID thing, but other vaccines then can be
even more significant. Even as we talk about it, the investors who have planned and who have made it clear that they wish to put up this plant understand the benefits of what they are doing far better than we can. In fact, at a later date, it would be good if we can get hold of some of these people so they can come and explain to us what their plan is and why it is that they've chosen to follow this particular path.
Yeah.
But individuals such as these do not go around making such plans without understanding the ramifications of it. It is not a plan that is going to benefit Kenyans. It's going to benefit the entire region, the region of East and Central Africa.
Yeah.
Yes. And with the East African community as we have it, one could argue that you already have a ready market. When you have a population that nears 300 million, that is almost the population of North America. That isn't a small population. It's a very, very huge population. In terms of market, it's a huge market.
I mean, the plant could serve just this region in terms of people, just enough, probably spilling over.
Yes.
That you don't even have to look at the potential for the rest of the continent.
No.
You're looking at these, under 10 countries that are part of this community.
Yes.
And then, looking at the Horn as well. Very possible that you're looking at something that could feed this region.
Yes.
And so I can see the benefits in that, definitely. All right. It's coming up to 6:15 on Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a break now and look at what the weather has in store. And then we'll come back and say hello to you.
It's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Mostly cloudy conditions this morning at 16, highs of 25 and lows of 15 in Nairobi. It's mostly clear at 16 in Nakuru. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 14. Nyeri is mostly cloudy at 13, highs of 24 and lows of 13 today. And it's 14 and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 13. Looking at light rain in Mombasa at 24, highs of 31 today, back down to lows of 24, and it's raining as well in Malindi, slightly warmer though at 27, highs of 30 and lows of 27. Kisumu was cloudy at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18, and we're looking at cloudy conditions at 19 in Kakamega with highs of 26. It'll come down to lows of 15. All right, looking out into Kampala, mostly clear at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 19, and it's mostly clear in Dar es Salaam at 23. We'll go to highs of 32 today, back down to lows of 23. Johannesburg is clear at 10, highs of 17 and lows of 8, while in Lagos, light rain at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Kinshasa is raining this morning at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24. Looking out into Beijing, it's 26 and sunny into afternoon Thursday, highs of 31 and lows of 16, while in Paris, it's raining at 21, highs of 26 today. And coming down to lows of 18. At 16, London is clear, highs of 22 and lows of 13. While in New York, still Wednesday night, it's clear at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 13.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to SpiceFM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to SpiceFM.
At 18 minutes after 6 o'clock. Okay, who's online this morning? Good to have you here with us. Washira Wilfred says, hey, Ndu. Well, Eric is, somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. And CT says, Gishugu Tukosawa. All right. Paul Muga is tuned in from Chaka this morning. Listening in from Soroto City in Uganda. That's where Rogers Muwulo is. And David Mwane Ireri says, good morning. The best show south of the River Nile, east of the Ruwenzori Mountains. County is 1-4 is tuned in live. Kimala Medina says good morning. Kenyan Sheriff says good morning as well. The only way to start your day, someone is missing in action. Don't worry, we shall find him, and when we shall find him, consequences shall be meted. All right. Tuning from South Africa, that's where Matilda Make is. And Patrick Fikirini says good morning. Daniel Jamhuri is tuned in as well. MC Edwin Kip Courier tuned in, and Andrew Franklin says good morning from a chilly Chalby Drive. All right. Well, good to have all of you in with us this morning, joining in on the conversations. And as we go to look at what's going on in the news, let's hear today's proverb.
Right. We have moved from the lovely country of the Congo Republic. Mm-hmm. We are now in the country of Uganda, our immediate neighbor. Okay. A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt.
Sorry, what?
A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt.
So it's flavorsome, flavorful.
Yes.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
Humorous, though.
Quite. A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt.
It also talks of improbabilities, does it not?
This is true.
But Luck then comes and plays an important part, because if something is improbable, it doesn't necessarily mean it is impossible. No. The likelihood of it happening is slim, but it doesn't rule out completely that it could actually happen.
And when it does happen, then you're deemed as lucky.
Yes, exactly.
Well, all right then.
There are those who also say that in the political sphere, you can refer to it as luck if you wish, but it's more so the role of chance.
Well, okay. A lucky eagle catches a mouse that has eaten salt. Voila. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in the papers today. Don't forget Standard e-paper, an opportunity for you to get all the news and action at the click of a button, really, on your mobile phone, and really seeing what is in store for you. Pastor who couldn't do without a woman. It's interesting. Premium content online. A lot going on in terms of infrastructure. So those are some stories that you can click on and read about today. Okay, so there's a new boss at Kenya Power, and that's one of the stories making headlines today in the business pages of the Standard. Let's just look at that quickly. Kenya Power has been in conversations quite a lot over the last few months, and so now there's a new boss. It is, a big deal. Intrigues as Odur replaced as interim boss at Kenya Power. Kenya Power has replaced Rosemary Odur as its acting chief executive 8 months into the job in unclear circumstances. She joins a long list of executives who have exited the position in the recent past. The power distributor has appointed Mr. Jeffrey Wasua Muli as acting managing director. The firm said Ms. Odur had proceeded on her annual leave. So, she's gone on leave, bring in somebody else. Yes?
This somebody else, was he part of that institution, or have they brought him from some other institution?
I'll tell you just now. However, sources said she had been replaced over differences with the board on the running of the company. She took over from Bernard Ngugi, who had quit abruptly 2 years into his tenure in August last year. So they wish to announce, etc. Muli as the acting director with effect from May 17, 2020, in the place of engineer Rosemary, I think they meant 2022, in the place of engineer Rosemary Odur, who was serving in an acting capacity. Odur is proceeding on a well-deserved annual leave. Prior to his appointment, he was the acting general manager in charge of regional coordination in the company. So yes, he's not new to this organization. Odur served as the general manager for commercial services before she was acting, MD. It is unclear if she will be reassigned. This is even as Kenya Power prepares to replace Mr. Ngugi, having started the recruitment process for a substantive MD in January this year. The company had hired Deloitte Consulting to help in search of a new chief executive, which has not happened just yet. Ngugi exited the firm under unclear circumstances, cutting short his 3-year term that was to end in October this year. His exit meant that Kenya Power had lost its 4th CEO in 4 years. Other CEOs who have been at the helm for short stints include Ken Tarus and Jareth Otieno. Mr. Muli takes over amid reforms to streamline Kenya Power and the sector aimed at bringing down electricity prices. All this happens as we are waiting for 15% more to be added in the reduction realm of our power costs. The firm had embarked on a turnaround plan in 2019 after profit dropped to 261 million from 3.2 billion a year earlier, before plunging into a 939 million shilling loss. So things with the power are not so powerful right now, it would appear.
When an institution has been embroiled in the sort of matters that Kenya Power has, unfortunately, a simple explanation is usually insufficient. People will read into it. Even if what is being said is actually what the case is, it will be seen as something that is being said to placate us and something to give window dressing, so to speak. And yet it may be the absolute truth.
The problems run a little deeper than just what we are seeing here.
Yes.
4 CEOs appointed in as many years, stories of who did not see what with whom, and now you have somebody else. It's been almost 2 years of looking for a new chief executive. There are more powers, there are more problems here than meets the eye. That's clear.
If Kenya Power didn't generate the sort of monies that it does, Kenya Power would not solicit this this amount of attention.
Attention.
Yes, neither would they be this back and forth and issues about all manner of things that we keep hearing about. Because Kenya Power is a monopoly. And Kenya Power has stories around it that often defy logic. And this just joins that list of things. Remember, you are an MD, you're a CEO of a company that has a history of having controversies around it.
Yep.
When you come in, you embrace those controversies. It's not you, but they were there, and if you're there, you then become part and parcel. So anything that happens within Kenya Power, there'll be a twist to that particular tale. It does not matter what one does. Even if it's a straightforward thing, people have understood, the board has agreed, they've gone through due process. It'll be no. There's something else to it.
Yeah.
Because the tales of war around Kenya Power, they've been there for a long time.
They have. Okay, Titi, what do you have?
I am looking at something on page 22. It's called Standard Counties. And the article there is Balancing Act as aspirants for governor's seat in Coast nominate their running mates. The story of running mates isn't what I find absolutely concerning. It is the choices that people are making and the balancing act. Now, from what is being written here, what is clear to me, let me just read it out so that when I say what I'm about to say, I'll have contextualized it.
Okay.
All right? Who. In Mombasa, ODM nominee Abdul Swamad Nasir unveiled former journalist and Mombasa Land Executive Francis Toya as his running mate. Okay?
Yes.
Right. Former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, who is also in the race to succeed Hassan Joho, has settled on Kisauni MP Ali Mbogo, while former Senator Omar Hassan of UDA is vying with Salina Maitha Lewa. Every candidate who is vying for that particular seat has chosen somebody who comes from the community of the Giriama. Okay? Now, what this tells you is this game of numbers we keep talking about is at play here. You are saying there is a population of people within this county who are populous enough to be able to determine what happens. So you want to choose a running mate who will represent that particular community. Now, of interest, of all these people who have made their choices, there's only one candidate who has chosen a woman as the running mate.
Right.
And the woman has a name. Yes.
She has a name?
Yes,
Okay,
she has a name.
super.
The last name is Lewa, but there's a Maitha attached to it. Now, for the longest time, anyone who understands coastal politics will know that one Karisa Maitha was, yes, a juggernaut.
Yes.
He was a force to reckon with.
Yes, he was.
So what am I saying? I am saying that it is one of those situations that will be interesting to observe because that's what we hear. But the powers at play outside. If you say ODM aspirant, who's behind it? If you hear Mbuvi Sonko, who's behind him? If you hear Omar Hassan, who's behind him? Yes. Now, so what is playing in Mombasa County is also a mirror of what is playing on the national front. Yes.
So it good to know. So what we are saying essentially is that these contests then give an indication of the so-called who will be chosen at the top seat.
Yes.
Or at least could give some kind of indication about the potency of your support.
That
if you
context,
see what's happening
that
around.
contest is being carried out here. In this particular county, it's clear it is being counted here. But what I'm surprised about when I look at what is being written here, you see, there are mentions, of course, of the coast in Taita Taveta, all right? He also is vying for a seat, but the former governor, John Mrutu, who is in UDA, is also vying for the same thing. If you go to Kwale, you'll find a similar story. That is why I'm saying that if you look at the political parties represented in the seats that are already occupied by people, you will see the battle that we have on the national front being playing out in these particular positions as well. Yes.
Did you know that you could move 2.7 million shillings?
Move?
With your phone.
With my phone?
In a short period of time.
How much again?
2.7 million. 700.
Where 700,000?
Yes, sir.
So this one it also means I have to have that money first, isn't it?
Yes, now. But you can do it on your phone. You don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
You don't have to
Please
go to the
explain
bank.
to me how I can do this.
I
So
will.
that I can look for the 2.7 and see if I can actually move it.
I will. But I want us to look at traffic first, and then I'm going to come and tell you how you can do that on your phone. 2.7 million. It's fantastic. Folks, it's 6:30.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree. Parliament has failed this country, and I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we are calling it Huduma Namba the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it. He should be
now
sitting
looking at
here
most of these
and
Nairobi
trying.
streets, a little bit coming off of the Thika Superhighway, and that seems to have built up significantly in the last half hour or so. Well past the Utali Drift today is where we see traffic, then bumper to bumper going out towards the Pangani underpass, but nothing too painful at the moment. Okay, that's a lie. It looks actually pretty painful, and it's going way past Survey, then now out towards the Outer Ring Junction, coming off of Waiaki. It's not so bad today. Traffic then coming from James Gishuru, then spilling over to Waiaki Way. That is moving really, really well today, and hopefully we can keep in the same form and fashion, at least for now. Also coming off of Uhuru Highway, then into the city centre, out towards Westlands, looks pretty good. Where we do have some traffic on Mombasa Road, and that's the Maradaima inbound. Yes, that's looking pretty good as well. We'll keep an eye on things. Let's see half an hour or so what it looks like when folks are up and awake and getting into the thick of things. Talk to us about where you want, where you will be, where you might get stuck this morning. Let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You're tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. Okoh and CT Muga with you, and still looking at stories having to do with politics, regional ones, regional in country is what we're still talking about.
My focus was the coast, because what's happening there is particularly interesting. For instance, you will find that Kwale actually has a lady who is vying for the governor's seat. Her name is Fatuma Achani. Now, it's of interest. If you go further down, you will find that the other person, that is, Fatuma Achani is in UDA. Okay, then there's Hamisi Bogo of ODM. His running mate is also a lady, Miss Kwekwe. If you go down to the upper coast, that is Taita Taveta, you'll find that those who are vying for this particular seat of governor, again, there's a preponderance. There is a clear shift from what previously was there, and you find people focusing on the deputies as being female. So this idea of the 2/3 gender rule seems to be taking root in our thinking and in our psyche. Because the lady, you see, if you look at Granton Samboja, the lady he has chosen is a former Voi mayor, Priscilla Mwangeka. Okay? Now, this is a good thing. This is something that in the previous election we didn't hear. If you heard of one lady, it was perchance.
Yeah.
Okay? But remember that even in Kilifi, we have Aisha Jumwa, who is also vying again for that.
governor
Yes,
seats,
exactly. So it seems it's not even a season. It's an era where we are seeing the writers of the Constitution and the fathers of it. What they proposed seems to have taken root and is beginning to bear fruit. more women are coming out to vie for these positions, and many of the men with their parties who have candidates who are vying seem to be preferring women to be deputies or to take a far more active role than they previously took. Now, what I'd like to see is when elections are over and people have been chosen, I'd like to see how it plays out when it comes to the formation of their government, the officials whom they will have, and also in the election of the MCAs who will be in the county assemblies. I would like to see how that's going to play out.
I really would. This is interesting, CT. I mean, just a quick note that these individuals who've been selected, be they women, were selected even before this whole announcement of
they were.
So it would appear for some folk that it seems to be the in thing now, or the fashion to select women, whereas this was happening. That folks had already seen before that they could make a good choice
In
from
fact, I dare say and
the
do
female.
that you understood this concept better than even I did, better than Eric and I, because if I recall correctly, when you heard of the choice that Raila Odinga had made of Martha Karua, you said, all these people who even seem to be in the opposition, their wives, mothers and daughters are going to end up voting for Martha. You see, what you said was profoundly prophetic, because it appears that the female vote that for the longest time was taken for granted, as they will vote where the men decide.
Yeah.
Like there's the understanding that,
Hold on.
No. It's a little more. Apart from just being voters, there's a little more than them just being voters. There is the issue of them being leaders, and that's being accepted.
Right.
Because when you see women coming up and presenting themselves for candidature, it means it has been understood and accepted that they can actually have those positions.
From where they're coming from.
It's from their backyard.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
these people are vying in their own backyard. So it's
Exactly.
been accepted in the backyard.
Indeed.
So now you tell me, when you have an announcement that there is a lady who has been nominated to vie together for the highest seat in the land, if that already has been the groundswell, what do you think, or how do you think that information or news would be received?
I mean, there you go, with open arms probably, and
So
all
I
and
said,
sundry.
you are extremely prophetic.
Call me prophet and do. Okay, TT, your phone.
My phone?
Kila mtu akona simu.
Yes, I have my phone here.
Hold your phone like this.
With which hand?
With your right hand.
Okay, right hand.
2.7 billion can pass through your phone as you're seated.
As I'm watching.
Leave alone that story for, 300,000 limit per day.
So all I need to do is keep staring at my phone at 2.7. Okay, go on.
Let me tell you. Nothing could be as scary as knowing that someone out there is carrying out cash transactions running into the millions of shillings using a mobile phone number registered in your name.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? This is the bizarre reality Mr. Anthony Muga of 57 has had to contend with over the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks. This was after discovering that someone unknown to him had for the past 6 months transacted more than 2.7 million shillings using a SIM card registered using Mr. Muga's identity card. It all began in on April 25th when Mr. Muga walked into the Kilimani branch of Equity Bank seeking a loan. To his utter shock, Mr. Muga was told he could not get a loan as he had been adversely listed by a credit reference bureau as a defaulter. This was news to him as he had not applied for any loan. So you can imagine the shock. Alarmed, he contacted a Union CRB agent via WhatsApp at 10:27 a.m. the following day. In a conversation that lasted to 11:10 a.m., Mr. Mugo learned that records showed that he had defaulted on a 6,742 shilling loan extended via Fuliza. You are listed because of a loan default with NCBA Bank, he was told. For you to be delisted, you have to make a complete payment plus 2,200 shillings clearance fee. This is 6,742, then plus 2,200. Through which number was the loan taken, Mr. Mugo is asking. The CRB agent realized something was amiss and told Mr. Mugo that there had been a mistake and that the loan would be written off. Just like that. Okay? You now that you have asked,
meaning your question isn't being answered, you're being given a response to a question you didn't ask.
Exactly.
Okay.
Who took the loan?
Do not worry. There was a mistake.
We have removed it. Don't even worry about it. Okay. All you have to do now is pay 2,200 clearance fee. then we'll remove you from CRP. Don't even worry about the loan. The agent said. Mr. Mugo said, no, I'm not paying this fee. A few hours later, he was at the Junction Mall branch of NCBA on Gong Road. He, however, did not manage to have his name cleared. I was told to contact Safaricom. In December, Safaricom cleared all the other numbers that had been linked to my ID, and after checking using the USSD code 106 hash, it was clear that only my current line remained in the system, Mugo said. He dialed star 106 hash in the presence of the reporter, and Safaricom sent back details of only one number. So it's not possible. This is just my number and I have it here. Muga walked into the Junction Mall and reported his predicament. However, he only received 4 messages sent between April 26th and May 8th, informing him that his case had been noted and it would be resolved. Dear esteemed customer, your query has been logged on blah 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 ticket and will be resolved in 72 hours. The first message was sent on the 26th of April. 2 more messages came on the 30th of April saying the same thing. Both messages said that this issue would be resolved in 72 hours. 2 weeks of silence followed. Unsettled, Mugo went to Safaricom offices May 12th, and was furnished with the details of the transactions beginning October 1st, 2021 to May 11th. This is where it gets interesting. It turned out that the loan, that besides taking a 6,743 shilling loan, the fraudster had actually transacted a total of 2,726,667 shillings over the past 6 months through Mr. Mugo's line, of which he had no idea. More than 19 transactions had been completed between January 9th and April 3rd. 8 of the transactions were deposits totaling 395,489 shillings, an amount that was withdrawn in 11 transactions. The suspected fraudster had deposited a total of 240,000 shillings on the 18th of January, 4 tranches withdrawn at 240,000 shillings in separate withdrawals on the same day. As you can imagine, Mr. Mugo says he was utterly disappointed. And Washira Karugu, who is the head of corporate communications, said he was also as equally disappointed and was going to look into the matter. And now they're looking into the case, pointing to the fact that fraud of telecommunications, gadgets and apparatus is on the rise.
2.7.
That's right. 6 months.
Gosh.
In a phone that is in your name, but it is not you.
Is that what they call identity theft?
Indeed. And it's on the rise. This is what's going on now. Somebody is doing some serious business with your name and people think that you are here an economic boss, whereas you are not. And you're paying loans that you did not take out. Begs the question, what's going on then with financial security? Right?
No, what it actually makes me wonder, whether I should just keep going to the bank instead of bothering. Even if I want to withdraw 500 shillings, just go to the bank. That is, of course, hoping that there's 500 shillings in my account.
This is it. Yeah. You need to establish first that the 500 shillings exists before you can then go to the bank. Tough stuff, wouldn't you say? What else you got?
Well, what I have got is something very, 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 very interesting. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second. By the way, that thing that we spoke about the other day.
That thing
about how it is we keep making politics the center of everything we talked about. We are still at it again.
Okay.
Page 4, page 6, page 7, page 8.
Yes.
Front page. Page 12, etc., etc. But let me leave that aside. Where's that article I was looking at? Yes. Business, page 26. Auditor General. Poor handover of projects ups waste in counties. The Auditor General, or the Office of the Auditor General, has raised concerns over the unstructured way new regimes take over public offices, exposing taxpayers to losses in unfinished projects. Auditor General, Ms. Nancy Gathungu, also pointed out the challenges of having an accurate asset register for counties. This challenge, he said, is complicated by the way county chiefs hand over or take over the office. Ms. Gathungu said local governments are still grappling with the management of assets, and lack of ownership documents. This is very critical when we're in transition. Now, how long have we had county governments? For how many years? We saw all this when in 2013-2014, especially as the devolved level, when we moved from 175 defunct local authorities to 47 counties. We are still trying to unravel the issue, she added. Ms. Gadhungu said the same scenario played out in 2017. Again in 2017, handling over and taking over was not properly done. We are still looking at the assets the government owns both at the national and devolved level. Now, the thing that I find puzzling about this story is this. Let's start with the local authorities. At the level of the local authorities, before we start talking devolution, it was clearly understood what the government owned. What the local authorities owned was owned by the government. Now, the issue of transition, as I understood it, and as I still understand it, was that what was owned by the counties, the local authorities, was to be transferred to the county governments. So, the confusion that is being spoken of here, again, still causes me puzzlement, if there's such a word. I'm still puzzled. Because asset owned by local authorities, not complicated. Transition, county government, understanding what was then owned by the local authorities should be transferred to the county government. So, where's the confusion? Or were there assets within the local authorities that were not, should we say, clear? You were not certain whether these assets were actually the local authorities or the national authority. And so now, when you want to transfer them to the county authorities, you are not sure what these things are.
The question's coming in terms of who they belong to in the first place, and then, because obviously there should be log for assets, county government, national government, who they belong to in the first place. There should have been, in terms of paper trail, what belonged to whom. This does not exist.
You see, for me, this discussion ought to actually take off, but it's unfortunate where it ends, with a transition authority, which arguably was there to be for 5 years. I have been of the view that that transition authority should not have been there for 5 years, should have been there for longer. Because transitioning did not, and this information that we are now reading lends its credence to what I said before and what I'm thinking, that transition could not be guaranteed within 5 years. And someone will tell me, the Constitution said this. We wrote the Constitution, for heaven's sake. Can we not relook it? But in addition to this, we had a commission that was that looked into the implementation of the Constitution. Okay? Implementation.
Yeah.
The Constitution Implementation Commission. Again, 5 years. Again. How do you have a situation where you are supposed to be implementing something new and you're putting yourself in a box with 5 years when you know full well that this is something that's supposed to last over a long period of time? Again, implementation, transition, those two commissions, in my view, should have gone on for 10 years. Then we would have been saying, fine, there's been ample time to find out how we can go about this. Because now, when they exited, now these discussions, even as the Auditor General and the office come up and tell us this, how are we going to resolve it? And in that time, those who understand how to play these games have played all the games they could play, while people are still debating on who owns this, does it belong here, does it belong there, who should own it, where should it go?
So what happens then in terms of recourse now to solve this pickle?
I think that is why this discussion is taking place, because she is simply pointing out what she has found to be true. Let me take it a bit further. Let's say that there were contracts, there were understandings that the local authority that was then superseded and taken over by the county authority. So how do you treat those contracts? How do you... Now, when it comes to that, there seemed to have been some sort of clarity. People understood, you move it this way, you change this, you do this and you do the other. It would be so much better if this was in the public domain and people understood it with clarity, because I am even more confused than I was before, because I was confused before, but now I'm even more confused. Who do you go to when the two arms of government that were created, departments of government, or commissions rather, to sort out these matters, were brought to a halt after 5 years? So now they no longer exist. So who is supposed to resolve these things?
Good question.
Habari yenu?
Salama sana Bwana Eric.
Inakuwaga hivyo?
Mko tu?
No, sisi tuko tulijua ya kwamba hii traffic in Nairobi inakuwaga na shida sasa. And we even discussed it and we said, first of all, when you have a new expressway, it causes problems that you had not considered before.
Exit
so you
right instead of left.
No, Eric actually probably ended up going somewhere towards Nakuru just by making one wrong turn. Then they said, but this road doesn't look familiar. By the time he turned around,
but I shouldn't be here now.
This is not where I wanted to go this morning. But Baba Karibu,
thank you very much.
The vehicle Eric drives has a reverse gear.
Inaweza?
Yeah, so inaweza. So I'll pick it to reverse akarudi.
Actually, the truth is, I did not have an alarm this morning.
Sure. The alarm doesn't have reverse gear.
So I had switched off the alarm so that I don't wake up that early yesterday. See, yesterday I had other meetings. So going to make mingi sana. You see, the president is traveling this weekend. And we had very many meetings just to plan who will be doing what, where, when.
I thought the president has come from abroad, as we call it.
He's going again.
He's going out of abroad again. Overseas.
So we needed to plan all these things, So switched off the alarm. My friend.
Let me tell you this, Eric.
I hear my phone ringing.
But it's somebody else's phone.
I'm asleep, I'm wondering. So, where switchukue simu? I'm telling the people in the dream.
Alafu?
They tell me it's yours.
They're saying, look, I know my phone.
It doesn't ring that way.
I don't need you to tell me about my phone.
So when I pick, I find it's Miss Ndu calling. I'm like, why is Ndu calling? Wait a minute.
Oh,
why
voila.
is Ndu calling?
Why is Ndu calling?
Yeah, so here I am.
Karibu sana.
Asanteni sana. Yes.
But you're well? You're well?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good to hear.
I thank God.
Now that you're here, I'll tell you a story.
Tell me.
Today it has been money.
I want to tell you a story. Happy story,
Happy story.
Yes.
Story. CT can do 2.7 million shillings on his phone. Another guy is an official in the Machakos County government. And he has acquired wealth over 500 million shillings.
Quickly.
I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Small.
Over what period of time?
Let me just tell you.
On his phone also?
It's just phones.
A suspended county executive in the Machakos County government has acquired wealth worth over 500 million shillings in yet another web of corruption involving a public officer and his relatives, no less. Investigations by the anti-corruption watchdog have revealed that between January 2014 and July 2021, Mr. Urbanus Wambua Musyoka...
What's the first name again?
Urbanus.
Carry on. It's Urbanus, yes.
Amassed wealth worth 531.3 million shillings, according to the EACC, since Mr. Musyoka's only known source of income was his monthly salary. His net worth could not have exceeded 16. Now, this is assuming that he had not touched his salary in this 7 years, that it is only possible that he had 16.2 million shillings. He's not touched his salary, went straight to his account, didn't even buy airtime. If he did that, he would have 16.
And he also didn't pay KRA.
No. No, we're assuming that the taxes had already been, taken, and then this is deposited into his account. He was the Agricultural County Executive in the devolved unit led by Alfred Mutua. He indeed amassed wealth that was not commensurate with his known sources of income. Investigations revealed that he had received substantial successive cash deposits in his various bank accounts, which he could not satisfactorily demonstrate the source. The commission suspects that the money is bribes and proceeds of crime that Musyoka received by virtue of his employment at the county government.
What was his job again?
Agricultural officer.
CC. He was a minister for agriculture, food security, and cooperative development.
So, they've obtained court orders to do what? Temporarily freeze his accounts. There's one account that has some 11.5 million shillings and some 2 motor vehicles that are belonging to him. They have barred him from dealing with residential property and a piece of land in Machakos. So, he has spread the money. Nicely.
In Machakos.
The case is pending at the High Court in Milimani. The commission is seeking to recover assets worth a cumulative 637 million, suspected to be proceeds of crime by himself and his associates. Thank you very much.
What?
That's right.
All these things, when people undertake to follow this particular line of work, do they think of the consequences? Because your picture is in the papers. Everyone knows now where your money has come from. Even if you go to court and it is proved that you are a whiz and you understood how to deal with this 200,000 you're earning every month and how you could voodoo it and turn it into the multi-million shilling empire, okay? Then you will have children. You will have relatives. Is it really worth it? For most Kenyans, it seems to be it is worth it. And it doesn't matter. Oddly enough, in my mind, it actually does matter.
You know, the way society has become, people knew this person before he became a minister in Mutua's government. People saw the person as he was acting as minister in Mutua's government. And everybody could just tell, I mean, you guy, hey, you must be doing some lucrative stuff. Everybody could tell, these things don't add up. You're just a mere CEC. Hata tukisema nini ama nini, I mean, you're just a mere CEC. How can you be making so much money? How can you be suddenly so wealthy? And if people did not raise a voice, it is EACC, well, maybe someone alerted this EACC on this, but other people, the neighbors, they never had an issue.
You want to look at these numbers, this money that EACC is saying, based on what you're saying, as we say in Nigeria, the complete money that this man should be having, based on what we know is his source of income, is 16 million. If he didn't touch anything, we are looking.
He has earned 16 million since 2014.
Yes, if he didn't touch it, 2014, 2021. If he didn't touch it, it's 16 million. 40 times that amount is what now the man has. If it's not Houdini, I don't know what it is, man.
They're seeking to recover assets worth 637 million shillings.
Yeah, because now the things have
Way.
So now even they want the thing plus the value that it has birthed.
You know, Eric, so long as the government agencies that deal with such matters don't call you out, people are willing to go along with that pretense game that you are a hardworking person who knows how to make money.
Yes.
Astute business.
They are willing to go with that one. But the moment
you are mulikwad,
then they look.
Everybody now turns and
that's what they. That's what they do.
So you mean City, you were like,
that's true, though.
Yes,
that's true.
So long as no one has said anything loud about it, we are willing to. We'll believe you. We'll just go to the same church with you and hallelujah with you. It is okay.
You throw a bash, we'll attend.
The moment it is out in the papers,
story changes
immediately. People don't want to know you. They don't want to call you. They tell the children, no, don't go in. Yeah. No, it's immediate.
Yeah. Persona non grata.
It's immediate.
Anyway, this guy, not only was he the CEC for agriculture, he has served in various capacities in the county government, including being the chairman of the Standing Tender Committee.
It's over.
This isn't the sitting variety. This is the standing.
The Standing Tender Committee. We understand. Okay. Throughout his employment in the county government, he participated in the award of several tenders to 4 companies associated with him.
Like in how daft are people? I mean, surely.
It's good. It's good.
We don't trust each other, my friend. City. I become CEC, that company of ours. We will only get tenders because my name is in it.
But Eric,
if the company was just Muga and Sons, I have no say in that company. I am not giving you.
But Eric, we discussed this and we know.
What happened?
And we talked to people who understand finances better than us. And they told us exactly what to do. The sort of account we should have. And we have that account. So you and I can't quarrel. No, we can't quarrel. Eric never writes me a check, neither do I write him a check. Okay. The money arrives is how it is done by the bank, not us.
It goes.
Yes.
Anyway, let's get to the news. Good morning. Kenya's biggest conversation at 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is New Time, Dennis Aseto. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission chairperson Wafula Chebukati has urged presidential aspirants to attach the identification documents of at least 2,000 people who support their bids when they present themselves for registration. IEBC regulations stipulate that all presidential aspirants must, among other things, be nominated by at least 2,000 voters from each of the majority counties. As at May 16th, the deadline for political parties and independent candidates to submit names of aspirants intending to participate in the polls, IEBC had received the names of 55 presidential aspirants. Now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua have been forced to scale the mountain on their own without the presence of President Uhuru Kenyatta. This, as President Uhuru Kenyatta has changed the tactic and instead will be running the show behind the scenes. The head of state had earlier stated that he would get out and campaign when the right time comes.
Unataka kuishi kuongea siasa mchana mpaka usiku, na wakati nilisema hivyo nikasema jameni, kwa heshima kwanza tufanye kazi, tutarudi wakati wa siasa ukifika. Nikaambiwa wewe huna uwezo wa kutuambia tuache. Nikasema sasa hii mambo ya kutangatanga, akasema wacha sisi tutangatange. Nikasema basi wala kama hivyo ndivyo umeona ndio inakutosheleza, endeleeni. Sisi na wale tumebaki tufanye kipindi cha siasa sikifika, tutakuja tuseme na yetu sisi. Sasa kipindi ya siasa imekuja na mtatusikia.
Jubilee Chairman David Murathe says the president's reason for withdrawing from the campaign at the moment is to give Raila Odinga the opportunity to run his own campaign with Kenyatta as the head of state, focusing on finishing his term. He stated that President Kenyatta will not participate in the campaign directly but will be giving advice and leadership to them. Murathe also made it clear that Kenyatta's absence on the announcement of Raila's running mate Martha Karua does not mean he is opposed to Karua's nomination. Now, as the August 9th general elections continue to draw closer, Deputy President William Ruto continues to woo Kenyans to give him their votes. In a meeting with leaders from Kiambu County, the DP said that the upcoming elections is important for the country as it seeks to end the politics of deceit, sentiments shared by Garissa Township MP Ednah.
The source of division in Kenya is the politics of deceit, conmanship of leaders against other leaders. That is how this country gets divided. That's how the people of Kenya get divided. And the only place where we can unify this country is to get rid of the politicians whose stock in trade is deceit and conmanship. And we know them. And this year, the people of Kenya are going to make a decision.
So this election is going to end the careers of leaders who believe in the politics of conmanship and deceit.
Nakuru National Chairman and incumbent Baringo Senator Gideon Moi will now be seeking to defend his seat in this year's August general elections. The party's Secretary General Nick Salat said Moi's name had already been forwarded to the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. Moi's re-entry to the Baringo Senate race now sets the stage for a battle for political control of Rift Valley, with Deputy President William Ruto, who has been seen as enjoying much of the region's support in the lead-up to the August polls. Salat, however, says KANU aims at maximizing on the DP Ruto-led UDA party's losses, especially in areas which were highly contested during the nominations. Now, Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Abdul Somad Sharif Nasir has unveiled Francis Thoya as his running mate ahead of the August general elections. Abdul Somad, who will be running on an ODM party ticket, made the announcement as he laid out his manifesto to the county. The Mvita MP similarly called on electorates to uphold peace during the electioneering period and shun divisive and tribal politics. And Kapsaret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi's lawyers have been ordered to tender evidence showing that the lawmaker is out of the jurisdiction for treatment. This is after Sudi failed to appear in court for the hearing of his forgery case, with his lawyers seeking an adjournment claiming he is in Turkey. The court, however, said the evidence presented by the legislator's lawyers to back their claims did not disclose the details of the hospital in Turkey where Sudi is allegedly receiving treatment. Trial Magistrate Felix Kombo also stated that grounds for adjournment because its election time does not hold any merit. The court further directed the lawyers to get instructions from Sudi where the matter can go on without his presence. In the case, Sudi is charged with forging a diploma certificate in business management from the Kenya Institute of Management. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, we're looking at a little bit of a build-up on Mombasa Road today, and this is just at that General Motors. This is inbound traffic because there's a certain part of the road that has been cordoned off to deal with some, infrastructural issues. So let's watch out for that. Traffic hasn't really built up in most parts of the city today. Don't know what's happening, but this is a good thing. So let's just, zip our lips and keep going. Gong Road doesn't look too bad. Coming off the Thika Superhighway, we'll see some traffic, actually quite a lot of it, way past the drive-in, well into the belly of Thika Road. We're looking at also traffic in and outbound on Kiambu Road. Okay, so gotta let you know, the NMS again has said that public service vehicles operators and the general public should know that the Green Park bus terminal will commence operations in phases as follows. 24th of May, all PSVs plying Gong Road and Awings Kodek will pick and drop passengers at the Green Park bus terminal. So if you're going to Gong Road, if you're going to Awings Kodek in that general area, you must board and alight at the Green Park bus terminus. And then on the 27th, all those going to Langata Road will pick and drop passengers at the same terminal. So you can't go into the city anymore. You will not board or drop off anywhere else but Green Park. 24th and 27th in succession. All right, let's look in half an hour and see how traffic has progressed. SpiceFM KE, talk to us there on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's try and keep things moving this Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power. And Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It is 8 minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, 19th day of March 2022. Happy Thursday, happy first Friday of the week. City, what is the day's proverb?
Today's proverb, we have actually moved from the Congo Republic. We're now in the country of Uganda.
Okay.
Yes. And the proverb was, a lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt.
A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh, man.
Yes, we're talking about probabilities, not possibilities here. Yes. There are those who would say we're talking about impossibilities, but I prefer to use the word probabilities. Flavored mouse.
So, a lucky eagle eats a sweet mouse.
Salty.
Well,
salty good, salty bad.
It has flavor.
Salty salt. Now, if you're the sort of
food that is salty, is sweet.
For them,
I get what you're saying. I actually understand. I get you. I do. I'm with you.
Ni tamu.
Sana. Savory.
Tofauti usipoweka chumvi.
Haina utamu. Haina ladha.
Yes.
And yet that is actually not true. The truth is, you train your palate to like salt.
Palate can be trained.
Oh yes, the palate can be trained. You are customized to it. If you have a palate that doesn't, should we say, hasn't got the software for salt, you'll find it an aberration. Something salty, you suddenly find it's disturbing. It's the same with sugar. You customize your palate to it.
Yeah. Andrew is saying, a proof of life from Eric. How was the traffic on the way to the Standard Group on Mombasa Road? Asking for friends who seldom surface before 10 a.m. Well, it depends. If you use the expressway, it's 3 minutes from Westlands to Southern Bypass. Very. And it costs you 171 shillings.
Yes.
171, not 170, not 175.
171.
171. So if you're using cash, please make sure that you have shillings.
Shillings.
Customer, unajua sina coins.
Chukua dhwiti.
Chukua chewing gum.
Amekupatia lollipop. Sheesh. Afro-Cities is happening, and we're going to be having the CS for Defense, and who's also acting as a CS for Devolution.
Indeed.
At 8.
Yes.
In the build-up to that.
In the build-up to that, in the last 100 years, 30 countries have moved or decided to relocate their capital cities. Wilson James writes in a 2020 case study of Indonesia, which recently moved its capital from Jakarta to Nusantara, the thinking behind such decisions ranges from cementing authority to overpopulation. All right? Nairobi, according to the Economic Survey 2022, has a population of 4.3 million. Of these city dwellers, 2.7 million are lifetime migrants, representing 62% of the city's population, meaning what? They move. All right?
Yeah.
Additionally, of the 1.6 million migrants in Kenya, 48% moved to Nairobi. Remember last week we saw it was demarcating certain people from certain places, and we saw that Kisii County moved the most people into Nairobi. An example of that.
Yeah.
The report shows that there were 641,817 recent in migrants, not immigrants, in migrants, compared to 411,790 out migrants. This leaves Nairobi with some 230,200 more people as migrants, the highest net of the 47 counties. We saw this as well. So this is probably lifted from the survey that we saw that was released by the KNBS a couple of weeks ago. Okay, now this population burst has been a challenge to the state in offering services such as housing and sanitation. Some experts have been suggesting relocation of the capital to ease such pressure. The challenge for many countries toying with this idea is whether they would build a new city or reconfigure the existing one. Egypt, which is one of the African countries which announced in 2015 that it's building a new capital city, estimated a budget of 6.7 trillion shillings, or this is $58 billion for this activity. This is more than double Kenya's 2022-2023 budget.
Sheesh.
New capital city may mean a new international airport, referral or specialized hospital, schools, and a possible state lodge or parliament buildings going by Egypt's plan, hence the high cost. Egypt wants to have a bigger airport than Heathrow and a new presidential palace. Sisi is not joking. It is hoped that the creation of this new capital will be a solution for the population, congestion, and soaring rents faced by residents of Cairo, according to that publication. But is that the only solution? If it is, will it solve the current crisis? So, these conversations that are being floated today about whether to move Nairobi, because there is, or rather, move operations from Nairobi to another city. Many things are popping up, and this is one conversation that has started at the Afro-Cities Summit that's taking place in Kisumu. Is there so much pressure on the administration of Nairobi City when it comes to getting certain things done in terms of housing, in terms of sanitation? We know sanitation is an issue. We know this already. We know that the city right now is depending on old systems, right? Whether it comes to water, sanitation, sewage pipes, etc., etc. Is it to the point where we're in a pressure cooker situation that it needs to be considered that the capital city, in terms of administration and commercial activity, be moved somewhere else?
To encourage some things to happen.
Exactly.
I personally think so. I think where Nairobi is right now, okay, we could say, don't look at Nairobi as the city, look at Nairobi as the Nairobi Metropolis, okay, which will then extend into the counties of Kajiado, Machakos, Kiambu. In some cases, and Nakuru, when you go as far as Naivasha. In some cases, yes. But then, even with all the plans that are, introduced, we had a conversation with Washira here, who used to be the CEC for planning, and he's an architect, and he's saying, we actually have a new master plan for Nairobi. We have so many things that are not working that I think we just need to start from scratch. The number of people who live in Nairobi and have no access to seaward sanitation. So at what point are we going to be able to connect all these people, just get out of the Nairobi, extend into the bedroom of Nairobi, like we keep saying. If you go to Syokimau, non-sewer sanitation. Everybody has that septic tank. So at what point are we going to connect that into proper sewer? At what point are we going to have water reticulation done properly to serve the entire population? At what point are we going to have roads that are big enough to actually carry the population that goes into some of these estates?
You know, what I'm hearing you say is that we seem to have a problem with implementing what we know we ought to do. Because we have these wonderful plans, but instead of completing the plans that we have, you want to come up with solutions that actually have great expenditure attached to it. Let's build a new city. Let's move this here. And you're asking, but there is no guarantee that the problems we currently have will not follow us to this new place that we're going to. Why is it that all the plans we've had to fix the problems we have here, clear plans, why have we not implemented those? Because this discussion of moving away, are we saying we have exhausted all the implementations that we put across, and so now the only option left is this? Because in all honesty, if we implemented the very policies and plans that we have for the city, the discussion we are having would, in my mind, be different.
You know, unfortunately, CT, we did not implement those plans for very many years. So even this new plan that we're talking about, the plan is coming after very many things have gone wrong. We're talking about, do we need wider roads in some parts of the city?
We do.
We do. It could be in the plan, but that means we spend money, first of all, bringing down other people's property.
Yes.
So as you start extending.
Yes.
If you look at even the reorganization of some estates, so we started reclassifying some estates, like Kilimani is now, has been reclassified so it can allow high-rise apartments.
Yes.
Look at the number of the high-rise apartments that have come up in Kilimani.
Why?
Sewer and water. Are those systems sufficient to handle that?
You're talking sewer, water, electricity, J. The power outages as a result of just the rise in consumption.
If you look at the roads, the roads are narrow.
The roads are narrow. You actually get the impression that when those areas were planned for, there's a limit to what they envisioned as being the population that lived in this area. Because even what you may call road reserves, they exist, but not for the sort of expansion that you would require to meet the demands of the traffic that you actually see in those places.
Yeah. I can understand that there may be plans. But unfortunately, as those plans are sat on, for example, and, sat on could be because, there was a wait for funds injection or something else.
You're really being polite, but go on.
Okay, this is because wait, or all right, we could go as far as saying that the money that would have been set aside for that has been gobbled up by other sources. But the thing is that when you wait on plans, it becomes more expensive. If you do a certain part of the city or you do a certain element like sewage systems, and then you come back later to do something else, it becomes more and more expensive. It becomes more and more inconvenient. I'm looking at Nairobi, and just like you said, unfortunately, Nairobi is small.
Yep.
It's small. In terms of space, the truth of the matter is that there just is not enough of it. You don't have an area right now within this that you can say we're gonna build an entire city out of this. What you must do, in my opinion, and just looking at a report that was written by some folks previously, is just what you're saying, that you must encompass the dormitory areas of Nairobi and make it a metropolis as opposed to making it just one city. Unless you're going to take the view that you're going to move completely and have a different space like what Egypt is doing, or like what Nigeria did with Abuja, or what South Africa did when they moved administrative from Johannesburg and moved to Pretoria, or start to open up other satellites where they have Durban, you have Pretoria, you have Johannesburg, you have Cape Town, so that you move things out of one centralized area. And maybe that is what makes sense for Kenya right now, because Nairobi, in terms of space, you just don't have enough acreage right now to be able to do it in this area that we're talking about. You can move it out. You can have satellite cities for certain purposes so that you know you have a commercial area. You know that you have an agricultural area. You know that you have an administrative area. But you cannot do this right now with the space that's available in the country. Right now, any development that we're talking about is not going to be new. It is going to be upon old systems. Unless what you're doing is going to uproot everything that currently exists, and then you have a huge inconvenience
Both
in
things,
terms of many other things.
Both things may need to happen. I vote for let's move Nairobi. And by moving Nairobi, I'm not saying that, move Mbotela from Nairobi, moving to go and create a new Mbotela, go and create a new Buruburu. No, I'm just saying move some of those things, services that attract population to Nairobi.
Yeah.
Number one, move the University of Nairobi. Then move some government offices. If we look at the vast area of land where, for example, government saw and they went to Malili Ranch and they said, can we buy some 3,000 acres off you? The Malili Ranch owners said yes. Yeah. And now we have the Konza Technopolis there. Just a couple of kilometers down the road, 3,000 acres, coming up with a new city. If we expanded around it, there's a huge, vast ranch called Konza Ranch. Talk to the owners of Konza Ranch and purchase and then put more government offices, maybe move some of these universities there. Then now you're easing the pressure. And then properly plan, such that that small, dusty town called Malili and all the other places going all the way to Salama, there's proper planning. If this is how we're going to use this land. This is residential. This is residential being planned for the next 50, 60 years. And this is what's going to happen. Wide roads. If you're talking about sewer systems being installed, if you're talking about water being installed, thinking ahead, have proper way leaves for expansion. Then it eases the pressure for Nairobi. And we still have to give the people of Nairobi the services that they deserve. And I'm talking about the Nairobi Metropolis now. So Nairobi becomes one huge city. There's the old Nairobi in Nairobi, and there's new Nairobi in Konza.
Eric, what you say is a reality that certain parts of this planet have already seen. Like when you talk about LA and how vast it is, what you just described is precisely that. You see, if you look at the human resource that are trained and understand this well, they are called urban planners. But one doesn't. We had one urban planner in the studio not very long ago, Robin Emerson. But you don't see them featuring enough in these discussions that we have regarding what we ought to do with the land that we have and how we ought to graduate it to benefit the people as we ought to. See, when people say there isn't land in Nairobi, it is not true. It is not true. A lot of it has to do with how we're using the land that is available.
Yep.
And how we also ought to plan with it for the future. And how we also ought to deal with the malpractices that put us in some of these positions that we're in. What commonly we refer to in this country as land grabbing. Okay? The solutions are not things that are so esoteric and so far removed that they cannot be resolved. They can be resolved. And there are people who know how these things can be done. But for the longest time, the confusion that we keep talking about, the people who preferred to have that confusion exist. So that it's becomes the norm. So you're always talking about it, always discussing it, but nothing really moves. And then the citizenry take initiative and do their own thing, and suddenly you find there's a town mushrooming and growing somewhere. And somehow you ask, but was this planned for? When simple services like sewage come in, you realize, but surely, should this not have come in?
Yep.
You discuss water. The story of Indonesia is given, and the story of Jakarta is given. But one of the things that is also true about that city is that it is sinking. Slow, steady, surely. Why? They overdug boreholes. They Yes, boreholes everywhere. So the city is now just surely but very steadily sinking. There is nothing that we are talking about here that is outside the purview of the experts who understand this business. But even when the experts come in, will we have people who are willing to actually implement what is being done? Or will what always besieges us? This self-interest that manifests itself in all these malpractices that we see, will it also take center stage again? For me, what is the greatest manifestation of this ill? I look at what we call Eastlands. Where are the public spaces in Eastlands? Yes, where because the largest population of the people of this city live there. Where are the public spaces?
None exist.
So are you telling me the public spaces don't exist in the plan? They existed. Where did they go? Because you know this is land we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it didn't move. It didn't go anywhere. So in whose pocket did it go to?
Whose pocket did the land move to?
Yes, it is.
Valid
So
question.
again,
Grabbed and gone somewhere.
Precisely.
But you see, as we sit today, so what do? We have an immense population. You call them
migrants.
So, and there are more and more people
and
who are coming to
growing.
Nairobi on a daily basis. And it's because of everything else that we're talking about. If you look at those initial plans, so there's this whole industrial area that was earmarked for, this is where industries are going to be. If you think about Ruiru and Thika, those were industrial towns.
Yes.
And the planning for it was, these are industrial towns.
So what about commercial now?
Yep. Now it's gone. We need to ease that pressure. We can't continue just, putting patches here, there, and hoping that we are sorting out Nairobi. We can't. I think Nairobi we need to think about creating, and not necessarily, we need to think about easing the pressure of the people who are coming to Nairobi by taking some of these services elsewhere.
Because people come to Nairobi because it has those very things, and they move from where they were because the places they were at don't have those services. The other day, something struck me. I was talking to an Uber driver, and just in the course of conversation, when you take Ubers every day, you get to some very interesting conversation. He didn't know what he was describing resonated strongly with me. He was talking about Westlands and how he had been working at night and how busy it is. And I realized, but that was what Nairobi was in the 80s. The CBD that we call it. At night, it was a busy place. Now, it's almost dead. But Westlands is a 24-hour economy.
Yep.
Now, for me, as he was talking, and I listened, I realized Westlands there are people who never come to the CBD. Never, ever, ever. Unless they're passing on their way to some other place. Now, why? The services that you may want, you will find them there. Now, imagine a situation where the planning guarantees that everything that we're talking about is actually available in these places that you're saying. There'll be no need for you to even live in Nairobi. You will not need to. For the longest time, Nairobi was what it was because Nairobi had the one thing that other places didn't have. Then we devolved. Now, that devolution ought to have begun solving this problem that we're talking about.
So essentially,
we still need to move things.
We need
to move the judiciary. Do you know how many prisons we have within this place called Nairobi? We have Langata Prison, Langata Women's Prison. We have got Community Prison. We've got Industrial Area Remand Prison. Those are vast pieces of land.
And they're the largest prisons we have in the country.
It's possible for you to operate. I mean, again, giving the examples, because oftentimes it's an example that will show you. There's no reason why, for example, that your administrative offices should be in the city.
No. There's no reason whatsoever.
Johannesburg and South Africa is a perfect example. If you're in Johannesburg, you need to get your visa sorted out. You will go to Pretoria. You will not find anything in Johannesburg. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what country you are. America or Botswana, Nigeria,
Pretoria,
Saudi Arabia. You will go to Pretoria. You will not find it in Johannesburg. There's no reason, like you say, why the judiciary should be in the city. There is no reason why, for example, other offices, agriculture, ministry, should be in the city. It shouldn't be. Why would it be so difficult to move them out? The reason why is because I think a laziness of strategy and planning is what has said, let's just keep this here because, we're already here. Let's just not. A laziness of planning, because if you focus on it, you can actually see how it would be beneficial. And then you take some of the pressure that is so glaringly evident right here, right now.
The example you give of South Africa is actually very, 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 very important because you look at Cape Town, it's a commercial capital. You see, it's not that it can't be done, but who has the will to do it?
This is it. Look,
it's not that it can't be done.
It's not easy. It's going to be a laborious process. But then if you look at the benefits that you would then glean from just taking that action, you can do so much more. I think for pity's sake, you cannot have your dormitory, your sleeper towns operating in the manner in which they are. Take your pick. Look at Roiro in the north. Look at Kitengela in the east. Anywhere you want to look, take your pick. Sewage systems are an absolute mess. They're an eyesore if they actually exist. But why not develop that and then move it out? You should not have residential areas like Ngara, for example, so close to the CBD. You should not. It should be in and out. We move. It should be in and out. Move those people out. Can you imagine the pressure that a residential area, for example, is putting on the CBD systems? This is what we are saying. I am not a planner. I'm not an engineer. I do not understand the intricacies of it. But if you look at it on the whole, you should be able to make such decisions and say, let's move. If you plan it properly and follow the plan, it becomes easier on the long run.
Let's take a break. It's 7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. The Afri-Cities Conference is taking place in Kisumu this week. And, we're talking about urbanization and what the future cities need to look like, smart cities being constructed and people thinking about that. Then let's talk about our own capital city, Nairobi. Is Nairobi serving the people the way it should be serving the people? Is there a case for relocating the capital from Nairobi? Or is there a case for expanding Nairobi? How do we solve the issues that are affecting Nairobi? We want to hear from you as well. 0719 012 600.
I hope you don't believe that Hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kano, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the inmates says, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room. Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi, a chance of rain this morning. Highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's mostly sunny in Nakuru at 15. Highs of 24, back down to lows of 14 today. And we're looking at cloudy conditions at 14 in Nyeri. Highs of 24 and lows of 13. And it's mostly cloudy at 15 in Eldoret. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. Raining in Mombasa at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 24. And we're looking at light rain in Malindi at 27, highs of 30 and lows of 27 today. Kisumu is mostly cloudy at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. While we're looking at Kakamega, which is mostly cloudy at 18, highs of 26 and lows of 15. Kampala is mostly sunny at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 19, while it's sunny at 24 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 31 today. Johannesburg is clear at 10, highs of 17 and lows of 8, while we're looking at light rain in Lagos at 26. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's raining ever so slightly in Kinshasa at 25. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 24.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, it continues on Thika Superhighway today. It's going to take some time to get out of this one. Looks pretty messy as you're coming into the city, and actually bumper-to-bumper traffic all the way beyond the outer ring junction, and really, really heavy this morning. Gong Road also doing that thing. We're looking into Westlands part of the city, and it seems that Matatus have decided that they're not going to let anybody into that entry at the expressway right there at the mall, and they decided, look, we don't have anywhere to board our passengers, so they've decided to block the road. That's what's causing that jam as you're coming down from Waiyaki Way, because they need some help. And until they get their help, they've decided you will not use that expressway. Abi? All right. Let's just watch out for that one. It's likely that they'll be dispersed in no time. We're going to watch and see. Coming off Gong Road into the city, that looks all right. But then we're going to have a little bit of a pickle getting onto Westlands, Ring Road Westlands, and coming out because of this thing that's happening further down. Langata Road is pretty packed getting into the city. It's taking off some towards Raila Odinga Way. And then looking at the Eastern Bypass, there's a bit of a clog up there. Looking at Lunga Lunga, going then towards Jogo Road. On this other side, Outer Ring, Manyanja, everybody, it's packed. Let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving.
Spice up your life.
All right, 24 minutes to 8. The conversation continues. Eric, Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and CT Muga. Is there a case for relocation of some services from Nairobi to ease the population pressure on the capital city? If you look at what we've been talking about, let's say Abuja, even in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam and Dodoma. Dodoma is the political capital of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a time when, everybody had started going back and doing their business from Dar es Salaam. One day, the late President John Pombe Magufuli said, on Monday, I'll be operating from Dodoma.
Like that.
I will be going to the offices. Mm-hmm. If I get into an office and they don't find you in the office, in Dodoma, don't come.
We're assuming that you didn't come to work.
We're just assuming that you do not work for the government. Stay where you are. Is there a case for that? 0719 012 600. Let's hear from you. 0719 012 600. Is there a case for that? Let's pick calls. This man has been lost for a while. Kariuki in Lavington.
No, I haven't been lost in a while.
What have you? Where have you been, Kariuki?
I'm very much lost in this Nairobi, but God willing, I'll be moving to Roiro in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason why I'm moving is because of some of the things that we are talking about. And I agree with Eric. Then he says that we are, not in those exact words, but I think you are insinuating that we're planning on top of prolonged era during which we've had no plans really in Nairobi. But when you speak to urban planners, actually, and I know one or two experts, they'll tell you that the planning of Nairobi has been A1. The blueprint of Nairobi was done perfectly. They contend that enforcement is where there has been a weakness. So, and there seems to be unanimity that enforcement has capitulated to corruption. So you find areas that had been planned for sparse dwelling are now mass dwelling areas because of corruption. So I want to put up an apartment. Previously, it was a bungalow that housed probably a handful of, maybe a single family of 4 or 5, half-acre, a bungalow with, quite some space.
Yep.
But somebody will corrupt his way into putting up a 10-story, 40 apartment, dwelling area, and this is putting pressure on sewage and roads infrastructure because we're not designed for mass market. And I'm talking really about Kilimani and Kileleshwa and increasingly Lavington.
Yeah.
I know of people who, in the morning during rush hour, when they're driving out of the premises, even the askari cannot shut the gate because they're finding traffic.
It's traffic right there.
Right there. And so what has happened is that the value of those houses is coming down because if you rent it out, the tenant will give you notice after half a year saying, I can't live with this. Let me go to a place where I won't find this traffic. So the value of the property is going down. Should Nairobi be moved? The services of Nairobi, rather? I think so. And you gave a good example where you said, you can find some branch and you can move out the university, you can move out. It is so bad that if you think about it, when is the last time an independent Kenyan government put up proper markets in Nairobi? If you think about the markets that exist, Jericho Market, Bama Market, they were put up in the colonial era. Any land that becomes available for a market or a fire station, because Nairobi has a serious shortage of fire stations, instead somebody will, a tycoon, a bazoo will come and put up an apartment, and city council enforcement will look the other way. So Nairobi should be moved, I agree, and this is a great debate, and I hope we'll have more, even beyond the African Cities conference.
That's true. Even as you move out of Nairobi to Ruiru, Kariuki,
yes,
all the best, man, because you're going now into proper non-sewage sanitation. Into what's your source of water?
So, first of all, my wife and I decided that we have to put up in a place that has a proper neighborhood, so there is like a gated community, because we were wary of putting up a house and then next door is a bar or a border stage or something. So we found there are quite a few actually in Ruiru, and I'm not talking about Tatu here. There are quite a few. There is water from Rujuasco, aka Ruiru and Tuja Water Sewerage Company. It's reliable. There is electricity. You're putting up in a red soil area. Some of those places they don't allow you to put up, or rather the land that was sold was quarters and no less, quarter acres and no less. So we asked, for me and my family, we wanted space.
So it's controlled development.
It is controlled.
Very good.
And it is controlled by the residents. So when you buy land, you're bound. And actually the bylaws, or rather the bylaws have actually been deposited with the Kiambu County for enforcement.
Good.
Yeah. So,
all the best, and thank you for calling, Kariuki.
Asante sana. Okay, good day.
Let's go to Dennis. Dennis is in Seattle, Washington. Good morning, Dennis. Or good evening.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Now, yes, I'm a civil engineer. I do public works engineering for the city of Seattle. But I was born in Kenya. I lived in the nation to live. What I can say is that the sewer system that we are using in Nairobi was the one that was designed by our colonial master, which was supposed to handle a population of 2,000 people. Nairobi right now has a population of 40 million people. The sewer is busted. Okay? You go to Syokimau, you have people who have big houses, and then they don't have the water. But the houses are very expensive, way expensive than houses here in the United States. But there's no water, there's no sewer. You get what I'm saying? So I go to Syokimau to this guy who has this palatial house, and he tells me, hey, if you're going to use the toilet, use the bucket of water, you're going to pour up in the toilet. It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Number two, there are these people who are selling land in everywhere, 50 by 100, selling them at two-way prices.
Yep.
These people are actually going to create a future slum, because I looked at one of those lands. They don't even show you the drainage or the topography of the land. So, like one of your colleagues has said, it's planning and implementation. It's not happening in Nairobi. Okay? When you have people really boreholes everywhere, they are contaminating the aquifer. The water system is being contaminated. You have a breakout of disease. How many times have we had breakout of diseases in Nairobi City, like cholera? You know, waterborne diseases. It's the same thing. So what we need is just simple planning of water and sewer. Before we do any major construction, that has to be planned for.
Okay.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and have a lovely day. Pauline in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM. Situation Room.
Morning.
I was just calling to make my contribution on the urbanization.
Yes.
In some cities countries like China, they have zoning. So you have your agricultural sector, your industries, your residential, and they have the trains to make sure that there's movement. So maybe that's one of the things maybe the planners can look into, just to zone Nairobi if we're going to move to another part of the country, of the outskirts.
Yeah.
And then the other issue with, I work in Westlands, so I get off the stage. And that place is just a mess.
It's total
And
mess.
I would suggest if that stage can be moved, because there's no way those Matatu people are going to move out of there. In the evening is even bad. It's worse.
Yeah.
And then there's the Ndudi guys. They are so many. You can't even move around there, looking for business. So there's a quick mat just a little bit further away from the stage. Maybe that can be considered to be the stage or along that road, because I could see how difficult it was for the guys trying to use the expressway to get in.
Yeah. That's true. Thank you very much, Pauline.
Thank you, and have a good day. Bye.
Have a lovely day. Eric in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi.
Just a quick one. I think, first I want to contribute on this topic. For me, I feel the biggest challenge is that we look at things with our own eyes, with what we see. So if Eric Latiff moves to, or it's an example, Eric Latiff buys a Mercedes today, then all of a sudden he'll start telling everybody, okay, I don't know, maybe you'll already drive a Mercedes, but he'll start telling everybody, these cars, they only have 18 airbags. The others have 24 airbags. So the person who spoke before, not Pauline, the other guy who's moving to Railroad, he said that
karaoke.
He said that Kilimani and Kileleshwa has so many high-rise apartments, and that even the investors are not able to return their money because when you get out in the morning, there is traffic outside your door. So the biggest challenge, I feel, is that we look at things with our own eyes, not the bigger picture. First off, I don't think there's a problem with Kilimani having apartments. Yes, the times have changed, and maybe we all want to live in a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom house on a quarter acre. But the truth is, research shows, there's a report I read, I think in 2016, shows that about 40%, or is it more than 50% of all Kenyans will be in urban spaces by 2025. It simply means it is not possible for everybody to live in their own compound on a quarter acre. If you have traveled abroad to cities like Tokyo or in China, the vast majority of people, the growing middle class, will live in shared spaces like apartments. It's just the way it is. For Nairobi, and of course there is also space for people who want to live in their own compound. So
I guess the issue is, Eric, even as we have, the concentration or the expansion of apartments in the city, are the services adequate for that? If you had, because the case that Karaoke was making is that previously you'd have X number of people living within the entire Kilimani, Kileleshwa, Lavington. And now you have many more. So is the sewer system sufficient to handle this new population? Are the roads wide enough to handle this new population? Is the water system enough to handle this new population? And so on and so forth. Power and the rest.
And I agree. I agree with that point. And it comes to my next point. The biggest challenge we have in Nairobi is not that we are building more apartments. The issue is that we are not building services fast enough. And the biggest challenge for me, from where I sit, is that we don't have proper mass transport. We don't use cars because we want to. We use cars because it is a nightmare to use a matatu from Westlands to Mlolongo. You are light in town, then you have to go to the other side of town. If it rains, the fares double. You spend 3 hours in traffic. If you don't have your own car, you can't access the expressway, for example. So the challenge for me, one, is that we are not investing enough. in mass transport, proper, modern mass transport, that I can live in any side of the city and get home anytime I want. If I decide to have a drink in town, I still know that I will be able to get home in a proper train or tram or whatever at the right price every day. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is, like you said, sewer. We need to expand sewer. Then finally, we need to expand also roads for private cars. You'd be surprised to know that with all this traffic, Kenya only registers about 140,000 vehicles, of which just about maybe half come to Nairobi. So that's 70,000. The city of London, which is more or less the size of Kenya, maybe the size of Nairobi, registers about 1 million cars every year, 1 million, 15 times more. And yes, there's traffic, but they somehow manage. So the problem is not we need to move Nairobi. I think actually we need to develop Nairobi to become even stronger, to become bigger, to become better. The other cities will feed off that. The GDP of UK, about 55% comes from Greater London. Same with Korea, Seoul. Those are developed countries. Same with Tokyo. Tokyo has 35 million people. 35.
Yeah.
I think that's the population of Uganda. So for me, in summary, the issue is not that we should move Nairobi. We should, and then another thing. I've heard people saying that we are not. It's not planned well. They are zoning fine. I agree that the zoning, what has happened has happened. Like there's some places that should not have apartments that are apartments. But if you travel to also developed countries, of course they have had a lot of time to develop. You will find that those cities they're not very well planned. Some of them. What happened is that they have taken time now to build infrastructure, to even make the small houses. I'm sorry, I'm going to use an example. If you go to an estate like Jericho, if it was in Tokyo, right in the middle of Tokyo with narrow roads or something, it looks actually very well. It looks like it was planned, but it wasn't planned. They lived like that until the 1920s. Then the government said, okay, now we have so many people here. We need to put a subway here and we need to put roads here. We need to make it that only cars can pass on this side. I think Nairobi still has time. We need to work, yes, starting now to ensure that the mess that is in there
can still be salvaged.
Yes, but I don't think we need a new city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Yeah. Have a lovely Christopher in Nairobi. Good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
My contribution goes, this is my thinking, that the COVID-19 pandemic brought in a new shift of how we're looking at things. Probably we need to get to a point where we actually define what is a city to us, what is a city to Kenyans, and what is a city post-COVID-19. I feel that if you look around Nairobi, you can see that there's mushrooming of courts, for lack of a better definition of courts or small estates that are self-contained. Self-contained meaning they have their own hospitals, they have their own shopping centers. So people are changing their mindsets around what a town entails or what it looks like. And so at the end of the day, I feel that Nairobi doesn't have that capacity to actually live or feed or feed what people expect out of a city, out of a town. And so there's a need for that shift, given that kind of mushrooming of different systems.
What would you suggest the shift goes to?
Well, I would be looking, and as been rightly mentioned by a number of people, previous speakers, my feel is that the outskirts of Nairobi, people are mentioning Ruiru, people are mentioning Syokimau, as you move outside the Nairobi CBD and away from it, again, that would be a proper space for us to develop. And again, I go back to my very first point that we need to get to a point where we're defining what is a city to us, what does it mean, and does it live up to the lifestyle that people are morphing into from day to day.
All right. Thank you very much, Christopher.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Varied opinion on this particular matter. Let's pick the final caller, Martin. Martin in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Morning to you.
Hi, how are you?
Very well,
thanks. I just wanted to make a quick contribution.
Mm-hmm.
If maybe we can look at it differently, like how Ndwoko had said, it is better to decentralize the government services. So the The other complementary services that depend on the government will go with it. I can give you an example. If we move the Ministry of Agriculture to maybe somewhere like Kisii, we won't see that bigger population of Kisii coming to Nairobi.
Yep.
And it's much easier to plan in this county headquarters than starting to now dig up Nairobi again. So it can be easier if we decentralize and we look at improving these other counties. It can be better because I'm hearing the conversation is just about Nairobi and the Metropolitan. What about the other 47 counties? If you look at it from that perspective, it can be even easier to decentralize, and maybe you really don't need everyone coming to Nairobi. Such that maybe the Ministry of Tourism can go to maybe Malindi. There's so much vast land in Malindi and so forth. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
I do agree, because that's an interesting point, that once you then, not necessarily focusing on rebuilding the city, but decentralizing things, inadvertently what you do is that you build up other parts of the country. That if you're moving government services somewhere else, then you have other cities that then will be built up as a result of that. Because once you do that, what you're forced to do is make sure that the amenities in those other areas then are also up to scratch. Then that if you're moving government office to one particular county or one particular area, there are certain things that have to come along with it, that you cannot but build up others. And so what you do with that is that it's almost like a domino effect, that you will then have 6 or 7 other towns that essentially become cities, and that you can now make sure that you have all the... Because I really don't think digging up Nairobi right now, the way it is... And
you don't think we can improve it, like Eric is saying? We can still improve the sanitation system?
I think we can improve it. Right. I don't think what is here now, you uproot it and then put in a new city with what is here now. I don't think so. I think if you take away some of the pressure that is on the city and then improve what you have, then you're probably better off. Because these folks have told us that the way in which this city was designed in the first place did not take into consideration mushrooming populations in the future. It was really for the colonial government with the sparse population that was there at that time. Did it consider, and then plans that have come about built on the old systems, and they're there. Plans have built on the old systems. So is it necessary to improve in terms of design? Absolutely. But I think that the way in which it's going to happen, maximum effect, is to decentralize operations.
But as you decentralize, you must have plans and long-term plans for the areas that you take.
For sure.
So if you take, for example, just like Martin was saying, if you take agriculture to Kisii, the first thing you do is you plan for Kisii to be a city.
Yes.
And just know that if you're bringing the ministry here, this is where the other services are going to come from.
Yes.
This is the zoned part of the city. This is how the sewer system shall be able to cater for a population that is 20 times the current population of Kisii.
Yes.
And so on and so forth.
For sure.
You know, this is where we need to consider bringing in experts in urban planning so that they can tell us and unravel and unpackage these things so that we can understand it with greater clarity. Because what is certain is that there is a solution in sight, and a viable one, and an implementable one.
And it can be done.
Oh, yes, it can.
It can be done. Let's also remember, Lapset was actually creating a new city called Isiolo. There's a plan. So Isiolo is to be a resort city. And that's why part of the reason why the thinking behind having the Isiolo International Airport and other services. Now, the problem is the people who, just like, was it Karaoke or Dennis who said, you go into these places, land has been subdivided and sold into 50 by 100s. Same thing is happening. You know, you look at these land adverts and you wonder,
what is it?
Why are you selling a 50 by 100 somewhere in deep Malindi? Kilifi, far from the town Malindi itself? People are selling land at 50 by 100. What for? This is not agricultural land. If it's commercial, is it planned? Is there any plan? And we'll keep it here for more conversations. We will continue the conversation on the Afri-Cities Conference, this time having a conversation with the Cabinet Secretary who is presently in charge of devolution, Eugene Wamalwa. We know he's also the Cabinet Secretary for Defence. Very good morning, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on SpiceFM from Nairobi to around the country, and then also live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook. Our Facebook page, SpiceFM KE, and our YouTube channel is SpiceFM KE. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newsround Dennis Maseto. Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition Party presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga now says if elected, his administration will roll out massive housing development projects across the country to address the rising number of people living in urban centers. Odinga says as a result of rapid urbanization and growing population, there has been an influx of slums in major towns like Kisumu and Nairobi. The ODM party boss says the rise in slums is as a result of desperation for shelter as people scramble to get roofs over their heads, leading to poor planning. Lamu County Woman Representative Captain Ruwaida Obo Mohammed has promised to introduce a welfare program for all the teachers in Lamu East constituency should she be elected area member of parliament during the next general elections. Ruwaida, who noted that the area has lagged behind in terms of education, which has slowed down its development, urged residents to endorse her candidature in becoming the first ever female MP in the county. She vowed to work with all education stakeholders in the constituency in the bid to improve the worrying education standards in the area, whose most ECDE teachers were reported not to be familiar with a competency-based curriculum. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has obtained an injunction from the High Court to freeze two bank accounts jointly holding about 11.5 million shillings belonging to a former Machakos County executive who is currently being probed in a 637 million shillings graft case. The injunction prevents one Barnes Wambua Musyoka from transferring funds to and from the account, as well as selling two motor vehicles, a parcel of land in Kibaoni area, and a house under construction in Machakos, pending hearing of the case on May 26th. According to EACC, between 2013 and 2015, Musyoka awarded government tenders and contracts to companies linked to himself, his kin, and acquaintances. An activist has filed a case at the Milimani Law Court seeking orders compelling Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai and Director of Criminal Investigations George Kinoti to summon Director of Public Prosecutions Nordin Haji over his remarks regarding the unresolved River Yala murders. These after close to 30 bodies suspected to be victims of extrajudicial killings were discovered in River Yala, with half of them yet to be identified. In the petition that has been certified as urgent, Frederick Bikeri argues that the DPP made remarks on May 10th while addressing attendees of the annual National Conference on Criminal Justice Reforms held in Naivasha. Now, 2 Form 4 students at Maraba Secondary School in Aldai constituency in Nandi County have been arrested for assaulting their teacher. The two are accused of assaulting their biology and agriculture teacher after waylaying him on his way home at night, fracturing his right hand using blunt objects. Josephat Kiplimo and Collins Kipruto are said to have been infuriated by the teacher who had reprimanded them for disrupting the queue during lunchtime. Still, matters education and police in Machakos County have come to the aid of a needy boy who reported to secondary school without fees and other necessary requirements after scoring 403 marks in last year's Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams. The officers, led by Commander Isa Mahmood, coordinated a fundraising event for the boy Simon Mutawan Nzioki, which culminated in the collection of about 200,000 shillings to cater for the boy's school fees and other school-related expenses for the next 4 years. The fundraising was preceded by Nzioki randomly encountering Machakos Police Station OCS Mohammed Ali when he reported to Machakos boys alongside his grandfather. A National Assembly Finance and Planning Committee has been asked to either uphold or increase the proposed taxes on nicotine and cigarettes. The National Assembly Finance and Planning Committee has been carrying out public hearings on the Finance Bill 2022 and tabled its recommendations this week. Members of the National Assembly will then debate the recommendations and adopt or make adjustments where necessary before they vote for the bill to become law by the end of this month. The Tobacco Control Board and Health Promotion Advocates in Kenya asked the committee and other members of the National Assembly to vote for higher taxes on nicotine and cigarettes to stop a growing epidemic of non-communicable diseases caused by widespread problem of nicotine addiction in Kenya. Health experts have submitted their recommendations to the Gladys Wanga Committee. And a 21-year-old Russian soldier pleaded guilty to killing an unarmed Ukrainian civilian in the first war crimes case in Kyiv that has been brought against Russian invasion 3 months ago. Sergeant Vadim Shishimarin could be sentenced to life in prison for shooting a 62-year-old Ukrainian man in the head through an open car window 4 days after Russia launched the invasion in late February. It is not clear how many Russians are in Ukrainian custody or how many might be tried in absentia. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
After 8 o'clock, and it's still really heavy on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Getting into the CBD is no mean feat, that's for sure. Really hot and heavy, and we're looking to bumper traffic coming off Outer Ring and even further beyond, well into Clayworks this morning. Coming off of Kiambu Road, actually, it's not so bad as you get to Muthaiga Square. Traffic realized, okay, this one we can do. Limuru Road, bumper to bumper. Wangari Maathai Road, absolute mess. Now, we know that at the exit, or rather, are we looking at the entry now on the expressway, just at the Westlands Mall? The Matatu drivers did a thing this morning and they said, well, look, if we're not going, nobody else is. So that's what has caused that tailback of traffic. They're still trying to sort out that situation. Maybe somebody can, have had a conversation with somebody else and that will be sorted. But if you're in the Westlands area, you might want to think twice about skipping over and using the Red Hill Link Road to get into the city. Because if you're trying to get on the expressway from Westlands, that might be an issue. An issue. All right, Gong Road also looking a little bit better. We're looking at Relocating Way taking off some traffic from on Langata Road, and then in the CBD still looks a little bit messy coming off of Uhuru Highway through to Haile Selassie. That continues with some drama here and there. Mombasa Road looks really good. In and outbound traffic is flowing free and free. SpiceFM KE, talk to us there. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only
8
way
minutes
to
after
start
8,
your day.
19th day of March 2022. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We're now live on KTN Home for the next 1 hour. CT has the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverb is from the country of Uganda. A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt.
A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt. I don't get that proverb at all. I don't get it.
Which one, the mouse, the eagle, or the salt?
The proverb.
Well, the proverb is not the proverb without the three elements that I've just mentioned.
If the mouse has eaten salt, the assumption is that it has been infused with the flavor. Abi? So it's a sweet mouse. If an eagle happens upon this particular mouse that has eaten salt, as opposed to one that has not, the eagle is lucky because the food will be sweet. It will be sweet. Abi?
Correct.
We're assuming eagles like salt.
Yes, no. The assumption is that eagles like salt.
This is a proverb written about eagles and mice by men.
Of mice and men.
Mhm. So here you have a situation where man, as in human mind, is equating what their likes and dislikes on other creatures who share this planet with them. So man may like salt, decides eagle also likes salt.
Yes. So
man likes salt, assumes mouse also eats salt.
So lucky is an eagle that
So for
eats a
now-
mouse that has eaten salt.
until the eagle learns to write, the tales of the eagle shall only be told by men
Who know salt.
who know salt.
Who understand
Salty
salt.
people.
Yes.
Eating a salty mouse.
But lovely commodity, this salt. There was a time it was actually used in the early Roman Empire as a salary. The word salarium, if you look at its origins, people were paid in salt. It was considered to be a very serious preservative, something of great value. That was long before refrigerators and etc., etc.
All those things.
That we now take for granted came into being.
Okay. You know, we're having a conversation about urbanization as of course, the Afri-Cities Conference takes place in the city of Kisumu, and the work that needs to be done in the city of Kisumu. The question is, so how many cities do we now have in Kenya? We have Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nakuru.
4.
Those 4. If we look at Nairobi and Mombasa, the oldest cities, look at Kisumu as well. Just the other day, the governor of Kisumu City was talking about we need to ease off land pressure here. So there are 2 schools. Yes, they are old schools. Yes, they have history behind them. Yes, but look, they are smack in the middle of the CBD. Can we move these schools out and then use this space for commercial purposes? And there was hue and cry and outcry. Now, if you look at all these cities and the pressure that they're having because of its finite piece of land, but there's more and more people who are coming into the cities and they're seeking services and they need things. They will need accommodation. They will need transport. They will need access to markets. Most importantly, city fathers don't see this, but city planners see this. They need recreational services. They need places where they can go and relax and unwind. You need green spaces. We're not seeing the development of green spaces, for example, in the cities. We are seeing city fathers of Nairobi complaining because people are going to sit at that roundabout at Garden City. And they're saying, this can cause accidents, Bwana. Why are people sleeping on that grass?
In fact, the conversation that dominates that particular space is we don't have sufficient housing. We need, so that you're justifying those shoddy little flats that these guys keep putting up. We don't have enough housing.
Yes. We need more and more housing.
Yeah, which also means we then need to take land that was purposed for something else so that we can build more houses.
And you ask yourself, so what is the way forward? What is the solution to this? Is the Afri-Cities Conference discussing this, or is it not?
Well, I mean, the different conversations that are popping up. I mean, of course, now, as we talked about in the last hour, one that surrounds whether Nairobi then ought to be moved. But, you know, a lot of these things, as you think about them, comes about with the thinking of the individuals then who are the vanguards of some of these things. When we talk about recreation and how important it is in the life of societies and communities, then are you having people who are thinking in that direction to say it is absolutely important that you factor in some of these things when you come to planning and designing a city? Now, are we having the conversations around the SDGs and before those, the MDGs, looking at where are we looking towards in terms of sustainability of cities? Where are we looking to in making sure some of these amenities are put in place? Is the thinking all encompassing? Because the conversation may be around sewage and sanitation, it may be around provision of water and other amenities, but it must be holistic in nature, that all of these things are taken into consideration in addition to recreation and socialization of communities. Because how often does that leave the conversation? Green spaces, one thing that you often advocate for, green spaces, recreational spaces. There are many countries we look at today when you walk into the middle of a city and there's a free gym, for example, for people to use, or that there are water fountains with clean water, recycled clean water that anybody can have access to drink. Are we of age to start thinking or start moving towards these sustainable cities. And if that is not where the conversation is going in this day and age, then there's a problem.
Indeed. Let's bring in the Cabinet Secretary for Devolution. Okay, the Cabinet Secretary for Defence, who is also the Cabinet Secretary for Devolution, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, joins us over video link. Good morning, Bwana Waziri. Very well, thank you, and thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. You are in Kisumu attending the Afri-Cities Conference, is that right? I think we have an issue, Bwana Waziri, with getting you on the line. Let's see if we can get that sorted shortly, and then we'll get to you. So we'll be asking the minister. So we have the pressure, immense pressure on what we have in terms of land and developing cities, and urbanization is increasing. People who are moving from rural areas into urban spaces. And then we've also talked about the number of people who are expected to be living in urban centers, in urban areas, in the next 5-10 years is still going to be rising. So what is our solution to that, City?
You know, the solution is to take our urban planners seriously. Because this isn't magic. This is something that is doable. So long as you have an example of cities that actually function, then it tells you that it is possible for us to find a solution. Because if other people have done it, all that shows that it can be done. Now, we then also need to deal with why it is that this thing that can be done and has been given as an example and has been exemplified by other cities, why it is that we aren't getting ours done. And in thinking about that, we need to consider this very, very concept of what a city is, how you ensure that this devolution that we have in this country works for us and that it helps us solve this very, very problem that we are discussing. That is my view. But you see, it's my view. But the truth of the matter is that if we called in experts, again, I refer to the urban planners, people who have a very, very clear understanding of how these things ought to be done, I am sure they'd be able to open this discussion up and tell us about things that I have never even imagined or thought about. Because, again, this is what they know and this is how they know it. We may be thinking that Nakuru ought to be, well, with the inclusion of Nakuru as a city, that we moved forward. For all you know, we could have 10 other cities in this particular country. And the moment you have those cities, it means that the services that accompany the entity that we're referring to as a city will be available right across the country. So even as we talk of devolution and the need for us to understand how that ought to benefit us, the reality of what we're discussing here will become more apparent. So that people don't even have to move from where they are. The very things that they're coming to look for in Nairobi will be available to a city literally next to them. So this need will be stemmed. It will be stopped at its very, very genesis, and from its very, very roots. Now, that is my view.
It's a strong view, and it makes sense in terms of talking about what devolution is doing and what devolution is bringing. Now, as we see the expansion of urban areas or the development of urban areas in these counties, in the county headquarters, because county headquarters, we have got to admit, where county headquarters have grown, we are actually seeing a difference. We are seeing a difference in terms of how people are moving and developing in those areas. There's a difference, and it's what it's creating.
Well, I mean, look, we said it. If you are moving administrative offices from one place to another, or if you're even creating the opportunity for them to exist in a different space, you inadvertently then provide other, or almost automatically provide other amenities that will be used in that area. You can imagine, look, take your pick around the country when devolution took place and counties then had to establish county offices. There were so many things that came along with that. That meant that people were working. That meant that you had to put up other buildings. That meant that you increased capacity for people then to get jobs. People moved back to that area because they wanted to then be able to work from their home counties. It's almost an automatic domino effect that you put up or you start to develop in a particular area. You will then invite other infrastructure. You will invite other economic activity. You will now make sure that this place becomes one that can be used for so many other things. You will build it naturally. But the thing that needs to happen is the decision and the plan to be able to move into that direction. Without that, then I think you will then have dormant pieces of land around around the country that are not being used for anything. It just mushrooms by virtue of the fact that you make the decision to move in that direction. And I think once you make the step, you can't really go back.
You know what perhaps exemplifies what we're discussing the easiest in some of the developed countries, cities or towns that are referred to as university towns.
Yes.
Meaning, yes, you have the structure of a town, you have the unit, but what makes it function is the population that you find within the institution that we're referring to as the university. Because you build the university, there are so many things that happen. One, that population will demand certain services. Now, because of the entity that existed there as a town, to meet this need, there are things that will automatically happen. There'll be commercial things, there'll be activities. Now, this will, of necessity, as you say correctly, grow the place. Now, even changing the status of a small shopping center to a township or a town, if you again provide the infrastructure and the services that go along with it, you will change the status. And this migration that we keep talking about, as again, will be stemmed. People move because they believe opportunities will be found to the places that they want to move to. But in doing what we're saying, you will have taken the opportunity to their very doorstep. And I'm going back to what I said. This is what devolution purposed to do. But then there are structures, there are activities, there are services that supposedly were supposed to accompany it. Now, if it hasn't, then the movement that we keep talking about and we're reading about earlier on will not be stemmed. However, if it actually exists, not at the county level also, but to the sub-county level, then the truth of the matter is that the growth that we speak of will not be in one big place called Nairobi. No. The growth will be in all the 47 counties that we have in the country.
Well, of course. I mean, you will invite the simultaneous growth
Yes.
around the country. Look, are we talking about an lack of capacity to realize this very thing that we are saying here? That we understand what can be done if these things actually happen. Now, in terms of actually implementing whatever design plan could come, then it becomes difficult. Save Devolution, which now opened up about maybe 9 years ago here. Did we see that there was this thrust towards opening up other parts of the country?
No, that
yes, we did.
Yes.
Let's bring in the CS, who's now joining us on the line. CS, good morning. I think, sorry, we had a technical issue earlier.
Morning. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, loud and clear, and we can see you as well. Thank you very much for joining us in the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. You're speaking to us, of course, from Kisumu, where the AfriCities Conference is taking place. We are talking about the future of African cities in the face of increasing urbanization and, of course, diminishing land and other resources. That's a conversation that we started having here at 7 o'clock, just looking at Nairobi. And even now, I'm sure you've been hearing what we are saying. Even with devolution now increasing or growing urban spaces across the country, especially the county headquarters, there is now pressure, not just in Nairobi, but there's pressure in other places which were just small municipalities or small towns, now getting more and more people moving into those areas. Is that what you're discussing in Kisumu?
Yes, this is what we're discussing, and we are very honored as Kenya and Kisumu County to be the first to host AfriCities in an intermediary city. We last hosted these in 2006, but that was in Nairobi, just the way it's been done in other capitals of Africa. That we are looking at intermediary cities as really the future of Africa. The experts are telling us this is where over 60% of our population will be by 2050. So we have to prepare, even as our populations grow and we strain our amenities, social amenities. We must plan ahead and plan for green, smart cities. And these are the issues that we are discussing here, and also sharing experiences with our counterparts from other cities in Africa and the world.
But CS, even as we look at all this, we are coming to every conversation we're having comes back to planning and the plans that the urban planners have had in place, and then the implementation of those plans, and especially enforcement. Do you see a challenge? I mean, you've been a CS for devolution for a number of years, even before the president moved you into defense and then asked you to come back and be the caretaker CS for devolution. When you have all these conversations, do you see an issue of planning and enforcement and implementation?
Yes, it is actually at the center of this discourse. And we have to really plan ahead and look at how rapid our populations are growing, and also the rural-urban migration that's increasing. People believing they will get better services and better opportunities in our growing cities and urban centers. So we need to focus on planning and also see how we can deal with the issues of corruption. Because this is one area that we must focus on. Because even as we have the best plans, now implementation is the challenge, and we need to see how to strengthen that. But as national government, we are also working closely with our county governments within the framework of the Big Four agenda. And some of the two main pillars, that of housing and that of health. So you find that as these populations grow, they will need more housing in our cities. They will need a better water supply and access to health facilities. So we're working on increasing access in health as well as housing, and also replanning our cities. A city like Kisumu has the old estates that had these small houses, but with the idea of now putting up affordable houses, we have high-rise buildings coming up, and in an estate where we're accommodating, say, about 100 families, with the flattening of these old houses and putting up high-rise ones, well planned, we can accommodate over 1,000 families. And this is happening not just in Kisumu here, in Nairobi, we have new estates coming up. You go to Nakuru, and we must thank our counties working closely with us on this.
CS, even as you talk about some of these things, we are looking at essentially a lot of work that needs to be done to replan or even to establish plans to take off the pressure off of some of the cities within the country, for example, that have quite a lot of it, Nairobi being one of them. What would you say is the biggest challenge to be able to get this ball moving?
I think the biggest challenge facing most of our towns and cities is the water problem. We have a huge deficit. In a city like Nairobi, the population is growing very fast, but we still have the same old water infrastructure. And that's why we have new projects like the tunnel. We're bringing in water from Murang'a. This is going to boost the water supply to Nairobi. When you go to a city like Mombasa, there's a huge water deficit. And that's why we have new projects like the Mwache Dam we are putting up, as well as Muzima too, so that we can have more water coming to these cities to serve the ever-growing populations. The other issue is the issue of the health infrastructure. We are happy that also as KDF, we have contributed greatly to putting up new hospitals, as well as expanding the existing ones to be able to offer more services. So more needs to be done, actually, to deal with the health crisis, the water shortage crisis as our populations grow. I regard this as most of the most challenging situations facing us.
When I see us, do you think that if devolution was functioning as it ought to, that this discussion we are having could easily be pointed towards how devolution can actually help resolve these issues that we keep talking about with regards to migrations of people moving from wherever they are to the big city of Nairobi?
It is contributing greatly. You will be surprised that it has actually stemmed some of this migration because we have counties that are doing very well now. We had a lot of people coming all the way, say, from Mandera to Nairobi, because if you had a kidney problem, you can't find the dialysis machine in Mandera. You must come to Nairobi, live with your relatives in Isili, and be able to go to Kenyatta National Hospital maybe twice a week to access dialysis. But as we speak now, Governor Ali Roba has done very well. We have a level 4 hospital in Mandera where dialysis can be done now. So imagine the number of people who are no longer congesting Kenyatta National Hospital and are able to get the services. CT scans could not be found anywhere, say, in the North Rift. People from Turkana, people from West Okoh, Trans Nzoia would come all the way to Moi Referral Hospital in Eldoret. But now with devolution, these facilities are offering world-class health services in our counties, and this is also stemming the migration to our cities. And it's also creating opportunities for professionals to go back to serve in their county governments because there are great opportunities there. And these counties are actually becoming new engines for socioeconomic transformation of our country. As I said during my opening speech, I said, this is the real bottom up.
You had to throw that one in there, didn't you? It's 8:30. Waziri, let's take a quick break. We want to take a look at the traffic situation. We know that there are some matatu operators in Westlands who've been they have downed their tools. Indeed. Now, what do you call that? Their tools are...
Their tools, they're the vehicles.
Their tools are steering wheels. What have they done?
They've stopped others from using the road.
Let's find out the situation there as well as take a look at the weather forecast. We're having a conversation with the Cabinet Secretary for Defence and Devolution, the Honourable Eugene Wamalwa, who is at the Afri-Cities Conference in Kisumu. And we're talking about the future of African cities in the face of increasing urbanization, diminishing land and other resources. What is the way forward for our cities, our main cities, our intermediary cities, also looking at other urban areas like municipalities and towns? Good morning, Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back shortly.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There's no Kikuyu pothole, low lack of water, or Kamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, still looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 14. Into Nakuru, mostly sunny at 16. Highs of 24 and lows of 14. 14 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 18, going to highs of 24. We'll see highs of 25 in Eldoret, where it's mostly cloudy at 16. This morning, we'll see lows of 13. Mostly sunny at 26 in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And the rain is still coming down in Malindi at 28. It'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 27. Kisumu was mostly cloudy at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. And Kakamega is cloudy at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 15. The sun is out in Kampala at 22, highs of 27 and lows of 19. And Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24. It'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 23. 11 degrees and sunny conditions in Johannesburg. We'll see highs of 17 and lows of 8, while Lagos is raining now at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's also raining in Kinshasa at 24. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 32.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Yeah, that little bit of a mess still continues in Westlands this morning. Yes, we did hear that matatu operators at that former stage in Westlands, where we have the new exit for the expressway and the entry into the expressway at Westlands, have decided, no, you've taken away our stage. Where are people going to come from? And so they decided, well, let's have a discussion. Discussion meant we block the road and then you come and talk to us. So there's a lot of traffic there this morning. If you're coming from the Greater Waiaki, you might want to think about using the Red Hill Link Road to get off of that while these negotiations take place. And I'm sure in no time we'll be back to normal operations. Okay. We're looking at traffic coming off Jogo Road going towards Landis, which is bumper to bumper inbound, and Kamkunji also onto Haile Selassie Avenue. That still continues into the CBD, Luthuli, Accra Road, all of those things. Quite some traffic there this morning. And Rilo Dingaway taking off Langata Road still continues as well. The Thika Superhighway now looking a little bit better. Traffic is just at survey, but it's bumper to bumper, and it's really crazy. Coming off Kiambu Road as well, traffic continues. Let's take a look in about half hour. Where are you? What's going on? Talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
25 minutes to 9. The conversation continues on this lovely Thursday, the 19th day of March, 2022. We have with us online is the Cabinet Secretary for Defense and Devolution, the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, who's joining us from Kisumu, where he's attending the Afri-Cities Conference. The future of African cities in the face of increasing urbanization, diminishing land, and other resources. Waziri, as you were speaking, you talked about the kind of things that bring pressure to populations in urban areas, and you mentioned land, you mentioned water, and especially water sources. But there's something that we don't hear from leaders, and particularly even politicians, even right now as governors are campaigning. They don't mention sanitation. And yet it's assumed maybe that when you talk about water, you are also including sanitation, but that should not be necessarily the case. I think sanitation should be, spoken about as a standalone issue. Because sanitation, for example, in Nairobi is a big challenge, in Kisumu as well. The issue of sewage sanitation and non-sewage sanitation. I know, for example, that the Kisumu Water and Sewerage Company is working with people in the private sector, for example, to look at how to increase non-sewage sanitation in the slum areas, which are congested and they don't have access to sewer sanitation. Container-based sanitation is an issue. But what's the future? What's the conversation like when it comes to sanitation, not just water?
I think we should start by changing the conversation to ensure that we don't just talk about water, but we talk about water and sanitation. And I think President Uhuru Kenyatta has been very clear about this. And by creating the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, we are really raising sanitation to the same level of focus as water. And for many years, I think we have invested more in water and left sanitation behind. As we stand now, when you look at the national water coverage, we are almost at 60%, and I think we are targeting to move to 80% by 2030. And when you look at sanitation, it's left far behind. We are at about 22% in terms of national coverage. So this is an area that we need to focus on, and for all the water projects that we are doing, sanitation must be given equal attention so that we don't leave it far behind.
Sure, CS. But, if we think about sanitation and we think about just digging up the ground and putting the sanitation pipes, we may not reach there in good time. Whereas today, there are people who don't have access to sanitation services. Is there a conversation about thinking of sanitation not just in the sewer pipes, but non-sewer sanitation?
I think for now, we must accept that we have a challenge because of the land issues. When you look at what's happening in Nairobi, there's been a lot of encroachment. Our planners have it all in place. It is known where the sewer line should be laid. But because of corruption, particularly at City Hall, you find that most of this land has been encroached on. So when the government moves in to move these people, then there's an uproar that, government is demolishing people's houses and messing up families during COVID period. But unless we do this, unless we bite the bullet now, the problem will only grow as the population grows.
Well, Waziri, I am happy to hear what you've said, but do you really think the problem is that the government moves people out, or the government doesn't communicate effectively what it is they want to do and how it is they have looked into the welfare of those they want to move? Because if what people see are bulldozers coming to greet you when you are leaving your house, or city askaris, or some sort of enforcement agency, they will react in a certain way. The reaction is not difficult to foretell. But if there's sufficient communication, this aspect of public participation, if it's adequately addressed, surely some of these things that the government plans and purports to do will be done with a lot less resistance. That's my thought. What are your thoughts?
I think government is not that insensitive, because notices have been served, but you find a problem where someone has bought a plot from another person who has sold to another person, and without them knowing that they are encroaching on public land. And when the bulldozers come, there's a hue and cry about people being displaced. But unless we move people and get this infrastructure in place, then we'll never realize the potential of the smart and green cities we are talking about. If we did not move people out of the thicker highway, and I know it made a lot of problems for the then coalition government. In fact, the Right Honorable Relocating became very unpopular at the time. But, we had to bite the bullet, demolish very prestigious houses. That's how thick a superhighway was built. Here in Kisumu, if you came here about 6 years, actually 10 years ago, you don't believe the city of Kisumu is what it is today, if you're told. But Governor Nyang'nyong had to bite the bullet. They had to bring down structures. The water frontage now, when you go to the lake, we have a beautiful city that is facing a beautiful lake. When a few years ago we had slums all over, people encroaching on what was public land. But decisions have to be made, as unpopular as they are, as long as they are right, to give us these cities that we desire.
Going further beyond that, I mean, even with this conference that's taking place this week, we are served with examples of many countries who are doing certain things. As you say, it may be unpopular, but it is right to be able to get things flowing. Is there a case then, looking locally, to essentially move administrations or decentralize operations in the country to take off this pressure on some areas that you've so clearly talked about right now, to remove the pressure on some of these areas and allow things to flow smoothly? Is there a case for the decentralization of operations?
I think there is a case, and the late Magufuli did it in Tanzania. When they were talking about moving the capital from Dar to the Roma, no one believed it could happen. But it has happened. And even in Kenya, it can happen. We can move our capital to Nakuru, which is the center of Kenya, and our newest city. That will bring a huge difference in terms of the congestion we have here, taking away the administrative district out of Nairobi. It can happen, but it must be a bold decision that, of course, with public participation, we need the support and goodwill of all Kenyans.
Waziri, you've said Nakuru being the center of Kenya, and I'm sure there are many people who will ask, what did he just say? Is it Nakuru? Is it Isiolo?
Well, you can look at Isiolo. You can look at Nakuru. These are areas where we can move to, and Isiolo has an international airport in Northland, wonderful weather. a beautiful road now. You can drive from Nairobi to Isiolo very easily. So we need to be bold, to move bold into the future, to make bold decisions that can change some of the challenges we are facing now. It can happen.
But yes, I'm in full agreement, Waziri. It can definitely happen. But do the services that often follow these designations, are they there? If, say, for instance, I want to go to Nairobi, to Nakuru or Isiolo, am I going to find a level 6 hospital? Am I going to find the sort of things that I expect of a city in these very places? And if they aren't there, am I guaranteed that within a time frame that I can understand that they will actually be there, so that my movement is supported by reality?
Yes, it can happen. As I tell you now, we have an international airport in Isiolo. 20 years ago, that would have been unimaginable. Just 3 weeks ago, we were out there with the president, with the CDF, opening an ultra-modern hospital in Isiolo. It is the best facility to be built in northern Kenya since independence. So the services you're getting in Nairobi, you can actually get them in Isiolo now. And these are some of the things that we are saying can be done if we are bold enough to think boldly into the future. Yes.
I can almost hear, even before maybe some of these plans are put in place, or even the discussions had on a deeper level, I can almost hear immediately that one of the issues we will be told about is that funding will not be adequate. We don't have enough to make it or to design it in the manner in which we would want when we're looking at countrywide design and plan implementation. So where then do partnerships could be with other governments or private facilities? Where do PPPs fall here? Would that be in the thought process, or is this kind of a go it alone kind of thing, and let's see where we are in 20 years?
I think this is where the PPPs fall, and President Uhuru Kenyatta has been very keen on developing this new area. Years ago, we started talking about PPPs, but it was a small unit at our national treasury. But now it is expanded, and we can see the expressway as the first successful PPP, executed in our country, in our region, and in Africa, I must say. So it can happen. And there are huge opportunities there. If you look at the Konza Techno City, the potential is there. You look at Isiolo, you look at Nanyuki, with the rail line that is connected now. We have people thinking of moving in these regions. So as government, our role will just be to ensure we put in place the necessary infrastructure and we create a conducive environment for the private sector to come in and invest.
One of the things that has been said about the northern part of the country is the great potential that they have for ranchers and for ensuring that that industry that is largely centered around, say, Athi River, actually grows there. Now, it's also a region that is constantly battling perennial drought. Now, if we were to ask, for instance, say, an environment that makes it feasible and makes it possible for certain things to happen, what would you say has been done for that region so that this whole enterprise, that in itself is an enterprise that Kenyans acknowledge is a growth industry and one that has huger potential than we currently have, what would you say has been done to ensure that this region grows that particular industry that it already has as the bedrock of its economy?
I can tell you many years ago, Northeastern Province, NEP as it was known, meant another thing, nothing except problems. That's what NEP stood for. But now with devolution, what we see it differently. NEP now means nothing except potential. There's huge potential in northern Kenya. And probably when at independence, we saw these as low potential areas where, according to session paper number 10 of 1965, would be avoided so that we invest in high potential areas. We are realizing that this region has huge potential. When you're talking of food security, all they need is water, and we're building dams there. There are dams that are coming up. One of the dams that will soon be coming up is Butte Dam in Wajir. It will have a huge impact on the potential of creating new bread baskets there. When you go to areas like Ukambani, where there's been hunger and drought and famine all the years, where people are relying on molio, relief food, Twake Dam is coming up, and the impact that will have will be felt for many years to come, to turn Ukambani from a food deficit area to a food surplus area. And it's not just that. When you go to a place like Marsabit, we have a brand new dam, Forole Dam, that we just completed, and Urum Dam in Turkana, as well as in West Pokot. So we're focusing on seeing how to deal with the issue of drought, water shortage, and the other issue is infrastructure. The roads that are being built now, as I said, from Nairobi to Isiolo, you can drive very comfortably. And now we have a road going all the way from Isiolo, going all the way to Wajir. Then from Nairobi to Garissa, we have a road from Garissa to Modogashe. That road is being put in place. It will go all the way to Mandera. So once we have the infrastructure in place, we have these regions connected to the national grid, so that they have electricity. We have roads, we have electricity, we have water. That's the infrastructure required to make the place now attractive to the private sector and investors to go in and invest. So the potential is there, and the commitment from the government is there to ensure we improve on security, we put in infrastructure, and we create a conducive environment for investors. And devolution has contributed greatly to this. Fast tarmac roads are being seen in Wajir and Mandera since independence. World-class health facilities are in place that had never been seen since independence. So people are beginning to look north. These are areas that we've now discovered oil. There are great minerals there. The biggest windmills in Africa have been built in Loyangalani, Turkana. So we are not just seeing this as a nothing except problems region. It's a nothing except potential reason. Now it's how we tap into that potential. And I believe as the Minister for Devolution, we have made a big contribution towards that.
This man has been Minister for Water and Sanitation. When he talks about dams, he knows those projects. He's been Minister for Devolution and Regional Development, so he knows about these things that he's talking about. However, Bonasias, there is a piece of legislation, the Urban Areas and Cities Act of 2011, that was amended again in 2019, that looks at how to classify these urban areas, the cities, municipalities, and towns. People have complained about the implementation of this piece of legislation, especially from the planning perspective. So yes, we know that a city is a place that has been designated, a certain population will qualify a place to be designated a city, or a municipality, or a town, or markets and such. But there's a complaint that governors are actually not taking in the input from planners and urban planners in development of, let's say, even in CIDPs and in the development of these urban areas. You must have heard this complaint, I'm sure.
Yes, and we want to urge the governors to work with their planners, because these are experts in whom we have invested a lot in terms of training. They know best what needs to be done, and I believe if we abide by those plans and implement them, we will avoid most of the problems that we have. The other thing that we are also doing is, creating new municipalities, and this is also going to improve services for our people. There are some governors who have done very well. There are those, again, who have not because of local politics, resistance. People don't want to be part of the municipality. They don't want to pay rents or whatever. But they are ignoring the bigger picture, the bigger benefits that come with it. Because when you look at some of the plans that we have, like the Kenya Urban Support Program, like the Sustainable Urban Economic Development, the SWED program, once you have them properly planned municipalities, you'll attract more investors. You'll attract more funding. And they are missing out on this. There are quite a number of towns that have benefited because of this. Yes.
Waziri, do we run the risk? I mean, you've mentioned this word. I don't know how many times you can count it in this time that we've spoken about planning. And then the implementation then comes as a result of it. But if you look at countries around the world who have successful plans that are still in that planning process, but are implementing at the same time, they've been hugely successful. China being one of them, that they are probably in the second to last tranche of their 60-year plan, and they broke it up into 5 years of, 12 years of 5 years each, 12 batches of 5 years each. But within those plans, it was very clear what they were going to do. And it was very clear within which regions, for example, that they were going to execute these things. Wouldn't it be then the prudent thing to do here for the country to say, these are the areas in which need attention. This is what we are going to do between 2022 and 2027, for example. Do such things exist? And then is there the following implementation? Because, my high school coach used to say potential is just potential until you put your boots to the ground. What happens then after that to say it's a plan, it's great, but can we actually see the result of it?
Yes, I think the plans are in place, and we have best laid plans as we speak. I mean, we have a Vision 2030 in place, and we have 8 years to go. So we have our planners now looking beyond 2030, looking at the EU and the 2063, looking into the future. So we must plan ahead. What I would say is that it's not for the lack of plans, but I think the issue is really the implementation part of it. And I think that is where we need to pull up our socks. But otherwise, we have the best of plans in place.
And finally, as we conclude the conversation, let's look at the example or the experience of Nairobi, with the county government and the national government coming in through the NMS. Now, we are talking about cities being classified across the country. There are intermediary cities such as Kisumu, Nakuru. Do you think there is justification to say that administration of cities should be both by local county government, and the national government should also have some say or some role?
No, not necessarily. I think for us really is to give support, infrastructural support to the county governments, to also do capacity building and technical support to give them the capacity. But with devolution, we have devolved this power for, the people themselves to sit in their localities, look at their priorities, plan, what they want to do with the resources that come to them, and have their CIDPs in place. But what we'd like to see more is the element of public participation being done effectively, participatory budgeting processes that are open, transparent, and accountable. These are some of the things lacking in some of our counties. But the future of devolution lies in the counties being empowered to do their part. Yes.
Finally, just tell us what's expected to be happening in the coming days at the AfriCities conference. So it was launched yesterday. You're there. You're going to be there for the entire duration of the AfriCities conference. What are the planned activities?
Actually, we're on our third day. Right. It was launched the day before yesterday.
Yes.
And today we're on our third day, and we have a lot going on. We have breakaway stations on my part and the part of our colleagues from national government. We have a lot of bilateral, because there are a lot of countries who have come here to also share experiences and learn from us. Like from these show, I have about 4 lined up bilaterals with Egypt, Cameroon, Sudan. There are quite a number who want to look at how decentralization has worked in Kenya and how devolution can be replicated elsewhere in Africa, so that we grow our intermediary cities, and we turn them into engines of socio-economic transformation of our country and our continent.
Asante sana. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Bwana CS. We'll let you go and get into the series of meetings. Thank you for shedding light on what's happening at the Afri-Cities Conference and also the thinking of the national government in terms of development of our urban areas. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
And we hope to have you in the studio soon. I'll also, through you, we are extending an invitation to the CDF so he can come here and we can also get to understand how our defense forces are working. They're doing a good job.
Thank you for having me, and I'll relay your invitation.
Asante. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it here for more. In the next hour, we continue more conversations reflecting on what's happening in the country, in Africa and beyond. We have been live on KTN Home. We want to take a break there, but we continue the conversation on SpiceFM on across the country and also on YouTube and Facebook. What's our YouTube channel? It's SpiceFM KE. What's our Facebook page? SpiceFM KE. You can also find us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is SpiceFM KE. We are also on Instagram, SpiceFM KE. We are on TikTok, SpiceFM KE. Where else are we? We're also on WhatsApp. We'll give you that number as well. Keep it here for more. A very good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire Dennis Sato. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has said the commission will register candidates to contest for various elective seats in a candidate registration exercise between May 29th to June 7th. IEBC Chairperson Afula Chebukati stated that prior to the planned registration, returning officers shall hold pre-nomination meetings with aspirants to brief them on the requirements and procedures for registration of candidates, among others. He added that aspirants for other elective positions will be informed of dates for pre-nomination meetings by their respective returning officers. The electoral agency advised aspirants to familiarize themselves with the requirements for registration as candidates by making inquiries at the Commission's county and constituency offices. Now, former police spokesperson Charles Owino has dropped out of the race for Siaya County Governor, where he was set to deputize ex-Rarieda MP Nicholas Gumbo at the August polls. According to reports, Owino is set to make a return to the National Police Service, which has since reportedly claimed that he did not officially resign to pursue an elective seat. Subsequent reports have since claimed that Gumbo, who was taking the seat on a UDM ticket, has since picked the party's Secretary General David Ohito as his new running mate after the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission had given a 48-hour deadline for Owino's replacement to be named. And security forces deployed in the troubled Marsabit County have vowed to leave no stone unturned in their efforts to crack down on illegally acquired firearms, which are being used by criminal elements to wreak havoc in the Eastern Region County. The pronouncement came in the wake of an existing 30-day dusk to dawn curfew, which was initiated by the government 2 weeks ago following a spate of attacks in the region. The frequent attacks have been widely blamed on ethnic conflicts and the proliferation of small and light weapons from Ethiopia, which has been embroiled in conflict. Bernard Mbata, the operation commander, said that they had managed to recover some arms since the operation began. Now, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services has announced that the Nairobi Green Pack terminus will commence operation starting next week, May 24th. NMS in a tweet said that public service vehicles plying Gong Road and Agwins Kodek roads will be the first to be affected. PSVs plying Langata Road will follow on May 27th. NMS says the terminal will accommodate between 300 and 350 vehicles at a go and up to 20,000 in a day. The Green Pack Coordinating Committee had earlier warned unscrupulous individuals to stay away from the pack after some individuals were caught planning to sell parking spots to Matatu Saccos. There will be 6 city link buses to ferry commuters who do not wish to walk to the city centre, with more expected to be introduced as demand increases. The facility, however, has seen its completion date pushed forward severally, as the organisation had promised to commission operations in April. A 16-year-old schoolboy who is on a quest to become the youngest person to fly around the world solo landed his small plane in Nairobi yesterday. Mark Rutherford, who has British and Belgian nationality, started his journey near the Bulgarian capital Sofia in March and is looking to clinch a Guinness World Record currently held by compatriot Travis Lula, who was 18 when he completed a circumnavigation last year. The plane's manufacturer Shark Aero deemed the journey too risky and declined to partner with Rutherford's project. Rutherford's journey will see him visit 4 more African and Indian Ocean countries before heading to the Middle East, Asia, and North America, and finally returning to Europe. Coming from a family of pilots, Rutherford first took the controls of an aircraft at the age of 7, sitting alongside his father. At 15, he became the youngest pilot in the world and is now following in the footsteps of his older sister Zara, the youngest woman to fly around the world at age 19. Visibility was a challenge while flying across the Sahara Desert, he said, but the scenery more than made up for it. He said he loved the views both around the Sahara Desert and in Kenya. We wish him the very best in his quest. And Russia's defense ministry now says that 959 Ukrainian troops have surrendered at the last stronghold in the besieged port city of Mariupol. A ministry spokesperson said that number included 694 who had surrendered during the past 24 hours. Ukrainian officials have not confirmed the figures, and Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister Anna Malia said more than 260 fighters had left the ruins of the Azovstal steel plant and turned themselves over to Russian forces in line with numbers given by Russia. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Yeah. Westlands. If you want to go and sniff tear gas, go to Westlands, because things have gotten really crazy this morning. It's a no-go zone at the roundabout. PSV Matatus are on strike. Red Berets dispersed to salvage the situation. They have said, you don't want us to park anywhere to get our passengers, we are going to park here and your vehicles will not move. So there's a gridlock there, and because of that, oncoming traffic then has stalled, and we're not seeing any movement there whatsoever. So it makes movement really, really difficult. All right, let's look at other parts of the city. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you're coming down Waiyaki Way, you might want to use the Red Hill Link Road to get around that, because you see this whole thing coming from the Thika Superhighway all the way into Wangari Maathai, and somehow miraculously it's connecting with this Chiromo into Westland. So you might want to rethink your movements in that direction. Then also we're looking at Peponi Road, in and outbound traffic coming down in that direction. It's an absolute mess. Coming off Waiyaki Way as well, it's really crazy this morning. Traffic hour is not ending anytime soon here in any way. Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic as well into the CBD. So in this case, usually it used to be Mombasa Road. Now Mombasa Road is watching the rest of you saying, how far? It's crazy in the western part of the city today. Let's keep an eye on things. Help us out. Talk to us. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
8 minutes after 9.
This is the Situation Room,
to the
the only way to start your day.
Today. City, what is that salty proverb?
Well, a salty proverb, as you call it, is actually from Uganda. Mm-hmm. And it's the story of the eagle, the mouse, and the salt.
Uh-huh.
A lucky eagle kills a mouse that has eaten salt. Eagle, look for mouse, kill mouse.
Eat mouse.
Eat mouse. But
Mouse
really
salty.
lucky eagle is eagle look for mouse, kill mouse, and luckily for eagle, mouse had
salty.
eaten salt.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I said, this is a story. It's a proverb that was written about man, by man, about the eagle and the mouse. Now I wonder what story would have been like if it was a mouse writing the story about the eagle and man.
Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. If the Ugandans have decided that's how they want to proverb their proverbs.
Ni sawa.
Ni sawa tu. Ni sawa tu. Listen, what's happening in Westlands?
Nothing. It's not moving. Is that not what we're talking about right now? There's
What?
an absolute mess in Westlands this morning. So, with the construction of the expressway, that meant that the Matatu stage was removed.
Staged.
It was staged up. It was removed. So now Matatus have nowhere to board passengers. They have nowhere to drop passengers. So now they've decided, that's what you have decided. Okay. Since we cannot board passengers and our bane of existence is to board passengers so we can make a living on a daily, then we cannot work. So then what do? We park our vehicles in the road. So even those people that are going to be using this expressway, they will not use. Move your vehicles. They said no. Move your vehicles. They said no. Now, police, administration, police, tear gas canisters are being lobbed this morning. Matatu said, no, we are not moving. It is unfair. We had a stage. We were plying our trade. We were doing our thing. You did not provide an alternative for us. You're telling us, don't board here. Then where do you want us to board? The next place we are is inside the expressway, and then we just keep moving west. What are we supposed to do? You didn't give us an alternative. You did not tell us where to go. Where do we board? Everybody coming from Raptor Road, everybody coming from Savage Center, everybody coming from the Greater Waiyaki Way. We cannot board them. What do we do? So now, they have closed the road. Police are telling them to move. They have said no. There's traffic of epic proportions there this morning. It actually started yesterday. This movement that we saw, these rumblings, started yesterday. Today, significantly worse.
So no-go zone?
No-go zone.
Okay. Before this expressway was conceived, there was a Matatu stage at Westlands.
Indeed.
There was actually a proper stage that was built
It
under the
was
Grand
built.
Coalition
With
government.
the shades and everything.
Yes, called this is a Matatu stage for Westlands. So if you're going up towards Kangemi, all the way Kikuyu, Matatus will stop here. It's a proper terminus, in and out. And the whole idea was to move the Matatus from the road.
Yes.
The highway, because this is what Matatus used to do.
Yes.
Stop in the middle of the road, pick passengers and drop passengers. Now they're told, get off the road, there's a stage for you. Enter CRBBCCCC with the expressway contract. Of course, they had to do things there, so Matatu stage affected. Now we have an expressway there with some serious columns that have been erected right in the middle of where the stage used to be. So now there's no stage. And if you're talking about this place after the former Westlands roundabout, heading out towards Kangemi, no stage. Coming towards the city, Matatus have been looking for where to stop and pick passengers.
They're at the mall there.
The place is around the mall. Now there is an expressway that has been fenced off that is an entry into the Westlands ramp of the expressway.
Yeah.
So nowhere for Matatus to drop or pick up passengers. Nothing has been designated and shown that this is where you do it. Because if you do it down the road, there's nowhere where pedestrians can actually cross over and come and board Matatus. So the question is, what is the plan? What was the plan?
There was no plan, man. That's the thing. There was no plan. There was no plan. What's the word you do? You uproot the entire thing and you don't relocate it somewhere else. You don't give an option about what these folks were supposed to do. Because, look, we could assume that we are talking about a stage that was feeding people just within the city. But everybody who was moving in a westerly direction had an opportunity to board and disembark passengers at that stage. It did not happen. It didn't happen. Where, just let's think. We can say that the rowdy matatus and this perennial behavior of misbehaving, etc., etc., we can say that. But in this case, let's just ask the logical question. What were they supposed to do? There was no alternative. What were they supposed to do? Now, the violence that we are talking about that has resulted here, of course, is inexcusable. But the question remains, where are they supposed to go? Because you come and you tell them as law enforcement, where Sipaka apa, Usibebe apa, okay, where are they supposed to go? You might as well tell them to go and find another route. What are they supposed to do?
Actually, the police should have joined them. Yes, instead of trying to disperse them, they should have joined them in solidarity, because if they are supposed to, as the mandate, the job requirement is to maintain law and order. It is not the matatu industry that is causing this problem. No. They are responding to a problem that has been caused by those who came up with this expressway and those who planned for it, and those who planned for the removal of the stage where they would ply their business and offered an expressway and totally obliterated the very, very spot at which they conducted their business. Completely. So we are talking about people who are responding to an offense. They are responding to a problem that has been created for them. And since the service, the police, the Kenya Police Service is meant to protect the rights of people, these people have a right that was abrogated, and that right needs to be protected.
We always talk about pedestrians, and we've talked about pedestrians all along as we talk about the construction of the expressway. What is the consideration for pedestrians, for people who are using matatus or people who want to walk and cross from one side to the other? So they're erecting a footbridge there in Westlands, near where the matatu stage used to be. They're putting up a footbridge there so you can cross from one side to the other. But if you want to board a matatu, where do you board the matatu? If you want to alight, where do you alight from? That's an issue that has, you just got to ask yourself, so what's the plan? And if you look at, I think, the way we keep talking about government, and even as we were talking to the cabinet secretary here, government has all these plans and all, but you ask yourself, have you actually talked to the people? Today, if you want to go to, is it from today or from Monday?
From the 24th, Tuesday.
From Tuesday next week. The NMS has said, you know what, that thing we've been constructing called the Green Park bus terminus, it's done. So from next week, we are using it. You want to go to Agwins-Kothek Road. You must go to railways, to Haile Selassie roundabout, near railways, and board your matatu there. And this, I'm talking about the Railways Club, not the Railways headquarters. Station. So you've got to go there at Uhuru Park and board your matatu. So 46s that have been carrying people from GPO, from Serena, from All Saints Cathedral. Are we talking about, because those are the ones that are going up to get into Agwins-Kothek?
In an earlier time, when there was Kenya Bus, there were no matatus. There was a stage, near this Guru Nanak temple and what have you.
Yes.
Kenya National Examination Council also had an office, just the headquarters just next to it. Now, if you're in the middle of town, you went there, because that was the central terminus where buses arrived before they dispersed to other parts of the city. But you didn't have to be there necessarily to wait for a bus. You got there if you wanted to have a seat, because once the buses moved out, the buses would be filled up.
Yeah.
But there were designated stages, and you knew where the stages were.
Yep.
So you simply waited for your bus at that particular point in time. We seem to be seeing a situation where the developments that we're speaking of and heralding as great developments seem to be easing out this very concept of a bus stop. Which means the person who needs to use what we have as the equivalent of public transportation is left in a bit of a lurch.
See, this is my problem. That it was not just manage this. It was not even regarded at all in terms of considering what is going to happen to the fellas who have to use public, as you're saying, use public transport. It doesn't even come up in in conversation. So if it doesn't come up in the conversation, as far as I'm concerned, it did not come up in the plan. That really, what happens to these guys?
But
there's a comment that somebody's asking here, can you count the number of bus stages, for example, between Westlands and Limuru, the junction? Count them. Now they're erecting one after the fact because they realize that they've taken one away. Okay? But the stages that we are talking about, what happens? It is not considered. You cannot have proper infrastructural development without regarding the systems that are necessary for people who have to use public transport and don't have their own vehicles. You cannot have proper development without regard for them. You can't.
Along this whole route of the expressway, there existed bus terminuses, bus stops as we call them.
Yes.
They were done away with. So now you find, for instance, around Nyayo Stadium, there's a Shell petrol station on your left if you're going towards Mombasa.
Yes.
That now has become the de facto what?
It's a stage.
Yes. Along that entire route. So you ask yourself, surely when the bus stages were put there, it was a factor of planning, a manifestation of it.
Yeah.
Now you remove it. Okay, you've removed it. What was the alternative? So anyone who uses, as we call it, public transport, my friend, it's a nightmare. Forget the nightmare for a single second of actually finding public transport. If you actually want to move from one stage to the other, you want to go just across the road.
Yep.
Across the road. Yes.
Physical example of this thing that we're talking about. Just looking at the comments that are coming in on Twitter, and that folks are saying, look, the traffic on Wayaki Way today is absolutely terrible. Had I known, I would have left yesterday. I boarded a matatu at Westlands going to the city. We are now on Gong Road. Think about it. We are now on Gong Road because there's nowhere to go. The stage should have been moved to where the former Nakuma UK was. Do you see? These are people who now are thinking progressively. There would have been an option. There would have been an option in terms of what you could have done. You give people an option, even if it's a bit further away, they would have done something.
But it's an
about
option.
it. It's an option. But here there was total disregard for the fact that they had this, they needed this thing. And maybe it's the only thing I'll say until 10 o'clock. If you do not regard all the users of this new infrastructure that you are bringing in, you have improper development of infrastructure. Improper. You cannot call it a win. It is improper. Because everybody, not just those who have vehicles, everybody then who has to continue using this thing must be taken into consideration. If you don't, it is improper. Finish.
You know, I personally support what Matatu crews are doing because this is an issue that needs to be highlighted. So we know for a fact that as we're gearing up towards the trial phase of the expressway, senior government officials were going around the expressway and with officials from Kenha, with officials from CRBCCC, with officials from Moja Expressway, just inspecting whether we are ready and what shall happen to people. It never occurred to them, and they were in Westlands, led by the PS for infrastructure, architect Maringa. It never occurred to them that, wait, we don't have a bus stop here. They were just focusing on this monstrosity of ours.
Up here.
How do we make sure that even these matatus do not block people who are entering to bring us money into the expressway? If they are blocking, get them off.
Period.
We need people to enter the expressway, okay? Now, this is what's happening. People need to board a matatu. Someone has posted on Twitter saying, they boarded a matatu for Westlands. They are now on Gong Road.
And that was not their plan.
No. They were going to the city.
That was not their plan.
I didn't plan to sing Gong Road today.
So a new plan has been organized for them. The people the police should actually go and arrest are the people who are responsible for this particular structure and the planning for it.
Yes.
Those are the ones the police should actually have gone and arrested. And told folks, just please tell us in brief sentences what it is that you had planned for these people, because they existed before the expressway. Plans had been made by this same government for them to exist before the expressway.
Yep.
It was called planning. Now you removed it. What alternative did you provide for them? Please. Please. Because they are responding to something that you ought to have done and you didn't do. So stop bothering those Matatu people. Go and arrest the people who, first of all, were responsible for removing the structure that made this thing governable and easy to maintain.
In the first place.
Exactly.
Yes.
And because they are the ones who have caused the problem. You are dealing with a symptom of the problem. What the Matatu owners and drivers And the people who are in that industry are doing, they are responding to a problem that has been created for them. They didn't create it.
The security forces might find themselves in a bit of a pickle this morning because these folks said, unless you carry the car, we are not moving this thing. So we are seeing pictures of police who are actually standing now in huddles as though they're waiting for the coach to give them the next action. But they really don't know what to do. I don't know how many tear gas canisters they're going to lob today, but these fellows have said they're not moving.
But
Steve says, I support the Matatu strike on Wayaki Way. CS Macharia and his stooges have damaged an existing road because of the expressway and left the poor downstairs with both badly tattered and no bus stage.
Actually, the police should actually huddle and immediately go to the very individuals whom I have mentioned.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones who created the problem. Let them also find the solution.
Yeah, they should go and tell Oga, see, we have tried. These people are not moving. We need to actually figure something out for these guys. Because, look, it will be today. It will be tomorrow. It will be the day after that. These people are not going to suddenly miraculously go and join another route in order to continue business going. What about the fellas who live in these areas and need transport to go in and out of the city? What are we talking about?
You know, then the cumulative effect of a jam in Westlands, do you know what it means? Even as on Mombasa Road, you know you're going to feel it.
No, it's already happening.
It stretches all the way. Now I can imagine
want
getting
to
into
see-
town is an issue.
It's already happening.
Yes.
What are we looking at here? Coming out of Westlands, just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic that had started on the Thika Road is now joining Wangari Maathai Way. And look at this.
Oh my goodness.
Look at
It's
this.
a
All the
gridlock
way.
everywhere.
Riverside,
Everywhere.
Ring Road,
Yes.
Westlands. All of this inside there on Wayaki Way. It's already happening. Going to the Thika Superhighway.
So everybody who gets onto Wangari Maathai Road wanting to go to Westlands or wanting to go towards Kilimani by using Chiromo Road and what's that road called? Riverside at Chiromo. So you come and you find the traffic from Westlands that's stretched all the way into the intersection.
Look at what's happening in Spring Valley. Look at Kuna Road. Look at Lower Kabete. Look at Peponi. Look at Kitisuru Road. Thigiri Ridge. Inside Muthaiga, because people cannot come off Peponi Road right now.
No, they can't.
Is that what you want?
And inside Parklands, all the Parklands avenues.
That's
Finish.
it. Done.
Is that what you want? What would have been easier? And this is yesterday. It started yesterday. Today, it's going to be like that. Because these guys are resolute. Until you give them an option, they'll say, we can't move. People will look for public transport. They can't get out of Westlands. What do you expect them to do?
People are not going to go to work.
They won't go to work now. So what would you rather deal with? Give an alternative or deal with this
See,
madness?
the ripple effect of this nonsensical thing people refer to as planning, which brought about this problem. The ripple effect. It's not just a traffic jam. Is not just a traffic jam. It is the economy being brought to a halt. That's what it is. People can't get to work. The Matatu industry can't work. The ripple effect. Children can't go to school. And if they're in school, they can't come back home. And if they're coming back home, they're coming back at night.
At night.
Now, you tell me. Simply because some individuals determined that in their planning, they're going to disregard something which existed. And it's like, so what? And instead of doing what needed to be done, meaning, simple thing, provide an alternative, for heaven's sake.
That's it.
That's it. We're not asking you to invent something. Provide an alternative.
Even if it was temporary until you now found a permanent solution. But the fact that you were doing something about it then would give folks an idea that, okay, we can, be uncomfortable for a short time because they're looking for something permanent. All right? But that never happened. So if see you.
This is
Let them
chaos.
stay there.
Are you
Seriously.
stuck somewhere in any of these parts of the road? What do you think? So Matatu crews have downed their tools. They've basically, by downing their tools, it means that they've parked their matatus and abandoned them.
Yes, they've
and
left
walked
them.
away.
And left them there.
Wako kwa kiosk wanatisha chai na mandazi na chapati ile ya kudungilia na fork.
Yes.
Hata chai moto na chai sosa.
Or chapati masai. Chapati mayai.
Did you
Cops.
say chapati Masai?
Mayai.
You know that's called Rolex.
Yes.
Hey, just thinking about it.
Zangunanja.
Hey. Anyway, if you're stuck there and you have an opinion on this particular matter, let's hear from you. Also, if you're not stuck there but you have an opinion on this particular matter, let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. So yes, Matatu crews are saying, we used to have bus stops here. We don't have anywhere where we can stop so that our passengers can alight or board our matatus. even pedestrians, the people who use these matatus from Westlands heading up towards Kangemi and onwards, or those who are coming from Kangemi and beyond, coming towards Westlands and they want to alight at Westlands, where do you alight from? It rains. We've talked about this many times. It rains. You have nowhere to go. We had a caller this morning, and this is Pauline. Pauline was telling us she usually does this. Uses the matatu stages to board matatu at Westlands. And for the last, she doesn't even remember how long, she's just been chaos. It's chaos this morning. It's chaos because we have people who should have done some work and they haven't done what they should have done. So deploying 10 million police officers to go and lob tear gas.
That's exacerbating the situation. Not
and also
the
people who are trying to cross over the road are also the pedestrians who usually would try to cross the road are also smoking in and inhaling the tear gas. How does that resolve the issue? Let's take a quick break. We will take a look at weather, and the traffic this time will be long because we are telling you of all the roads in Nairobi that have been affected because of the expressway. Anyway, we'll be back shortly. We want to hear from you. 0719 012 600.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked, and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric. The sun is out in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. At 19 degrees, mostly sunny conditions in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14. It's cloudy at 17 in Nyeri, highs of 24 and lows of 14. And at 18, it's mostly cloudy in Eldoret. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 13. Mombasa this morning raining again at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And we're looking at mostly cloudy or rainy conditions in Malindi, highs of 30 and lows of 27. It's mostly cloudy at 21 in Kisumu, highs of 28. And Kakamega will see highs of 25 and lows of 15 today on a mostly cloudy morning. Kampala is mostly sunny at 23, highs of 27 and lows of 19, while it's mostly sunny at 27 in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 31. 12 degrees and sunny in Joburg, 17 will be the high and lows of 8, while it's raining in Lagos. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25. Kinshasa, rain as well at 25, highs of 32. And out in Beijing, it's already 30, but it's going into early evening, highs of 31 and lows of 16 today. 22 degrees and the summer months are beckoning. In Paris, highs of 26 and lows of 18. And it's 15 and cloudy, going to highs of 22 in London. Finally, New York, rain showers for a change at 15. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 14. I don't even know where to start. But let's start on the Thika Superhighway. There's traffic on Kiambu Road, and we've got in and outbound traffic. The Thika Superhighway, all the way now tailed back towards Survey. That started really early and has not let up. The problem, though, is not there. You're going to go past the Pangani underpass into Wangari Maathai Way, and then you're going to get stuck. If that was your way to get into the city, I am sorry. Because now we are connecting with traffic that's coming off of Chiromo, and it's connecting with Riverside Drive. There's traffic all the way into Limuru Road, front and back, bumper to bumper. Parklands is an absolute mess, because then it now goes further and it connects with Ring Road Parklands, which is coming from where? You named it, Sarit Center, around that whole area. Further ahead, we're going towards Mwanzi Road, going towards Spring Valley, that whole area, Thigiri Ridge, Kitisuru Road, Peponi Road, Lower Kabete Road, Kuna Road, Ring Road Westlands. It's absolutely crazy. Bumper to bumper traffic, in and outbound. Folks who are trying to go the back way, coming off the Red Hill Link Road. We can see nothing but vehicles. Why, you ask? Because of the drama that's happening right there at the Westlands X stage. Okay? Tear gas being lobbed. Folks are saying we can't get out of this one. Folks who are coming into the city, folks who are going into Westlands, nobody can find a way out of this one. Today it's going to be crazy. Traffic hour, I don't know if it'll end today, maybe tomorrow. Sit tight, folks. I don't know what's going to happen as a result of that, but it's moving really slowly and we don't know when it's going to let up. Just a heads up, let us know where you might be stuck. Where you are stuck. SpiceFM KE on Twitter through the morning. Text 40127.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. The upgrading of Angama airstrip in Masai Mara to an international airport in a bid to directly connect foreign tourists to the world-famous game reserve is on course. The rehabilitation, sponsored by the government of Kenya through the Kenya Airports Authority, is expected to be carried out in 3 phases before becoming a fully operational international airport, with the first phase costing 244 million shillings. Environmental, social and governance factors have taken up as a key driver in the real estate sector, according to industry sector players. Speaking during the 9th annual East African Property Investment Summit, host Fair Rasin noted that this will be a driver following the said increased activity by local, regional and international investors in the market despite the impact of COVID-19 and upcoming elections. The Central Depository and Settlement Corporation has suspended the implementation of a new maintenance fee on CDS trading accounts after uproar from the investing public. While the corporation had doubled down on the maintenance fee on Tuesday, CDSC has seemingly now eaten humble pie after widespread rejection of the proposed levy. The 100 shillings monthly fee had taken effect Monday after what the CDSC said was a 60-day consultation with stakeholders. Now, Chris Senanu is set to depart from his role as Safaricom's Chief Enterprise Business Officer at the end of May. The telecoms operator made the announcement, which has further disclosed the appointment of Joseph Wanjohi to take up the post on interim capacity. Chris Senanu had joined the operator in June last year and was tasked with developing the enterprise business first and second missions. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business.
Uh-huh. 24 minutes to 10. The conversation continues. Is Andrew on our case? What's Andrew saying?
I have no idea what he's on about.
Read.
Andrew, what's the problem this morning?
What is he saying?
I don't know.
Read.
Silence on the part of the otherwise opinionated and ebullient Okoh, Eric and C2 Muga. Nearly 45 minutes of subdued hemming and hawing, punctuated by very occasional polite questions. What are you talking about?
Oh, about Wamalwa interview.
Maybe.
Well, subdued and hawing.
Okay.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks for the feedback, though. I don't know what you wanted us to ask.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. So, 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. We're talking about the chaos in Westlands this morning. So, people on the ground are saying it's starting to move because of the 1 million police officers who've been deployed there. They've lobbed tear gas, so the road is now clear. However,
so what's the tear gas doing? Moving the cars?
The tear gas has just scattered everybody.
Tear gas is uncomfortable.
But the chaos that is in Nairobi today. Now, imagine somebody who is on Thika Road, How far back does it stretch on Thika Superhighway?
At 9:30, usually we're done, but now we have traffic all the way back towards Survey, beyond Survey, still
Kiambu Road,
inbound.
still.
Kiambu Road, forget about it. In and outbound is packed.
And this is all because people who are coming and want to get into Wangari Maathai Road
Mhm.
to get to Westlands or to get to, to use
Even to get into
Riverside.
the city. Yeah.
Now even coming towards the city, all chock a block. Because people who are trying to come out of Wangari Maathai Road at the Museum Hill interchange into Uhuru, into Wayaki Way, heading towards Westlands, or to turn off at Chiromo, they're finding traffic that starts from Westlands, coming towards University.
Penny drop situation for me right now is that somebody's just said children are still on the road. Now, you understand? It's 9:30 in the morning.
Right.
Children are still on the road. That means they were going to school between 6 and 7. They were supposed to have been in school at 8 o'clock. There are still buses, school buses, in traffic.
Yep.
Right now.
Wow.
So if they keep moving at this pace, they might be in time for tomorrow's classes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're thinking of children on their way to school. Now, what happens when they are coming back, those who got there?
Or the ones who actually reached school, Abi, and now are trying to come
they
back
will
home.
want to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Then what will happen exactly? You know, this day for many people has been disrupted completely.
Yeah, it's done. It's done.
That's why I said it has a direct effect on the economy. You may not think so, but it does. Transport is a very key part of an economy. Very, very key. Now, the moment you disrupt it in a city like Nairobi, what you've disrupted, the ripple effects are actually profound. The people who are responsible must be called out and they must provide an answer. Why was there not an alternative once the bus stage was removed from Westlands? Why? Why? It was put there in the first place because it was needed.
I think there's another reality that we need to come to grips with as well right now, even as we talk about this on a Thursday morning, that until and unless there's a solution for tomorrow, because, it's like you throw tear gas or whatever, these folks are going to get used to it.
What if they come back tomorrow?
Come back tomorrow, they're going to be there Saturday, they're going to be there Sunday. The solution here is to give them an alternative. That's the solution. Because far be it from these folks to then drop their trade because you didn't do what you needed to do.
Remember, they also know that when they stop working, their livelihood is also under threat.
This is it, because we're talking about a daily feeding.
But they are willing. By the time people are willing to put that on hold, what does it tell you about their resolve? Because they know. It's not that they don't know. They understand.
This is such serious chaos.
Yes, this is what happens when these unthinking people who are given positions of leadership put into play what they think is a good plan and disregard everything that ought to have been considered. And anything that anyone, you don't need to be a planner to have understood this. you don't need to be an engineer to have understood this. So the people who we call the Wanjiko, the Monanchi, they have to bear the brunt of this anyway.
I think that the annoying bit is looking at, yes, there's an expressway, it's beautiful when you use it, and you actually feel the difference in terms of, all right, does it cut your travel time? Yes, of course it cuts your journey time. Of course it does. But then there should have been a plan that says, as we do that, this is also what shall happen. Now, the government is going to spend an extra 9 billion shillings to give to this contractor to repair the road. What was the plan? I watched an interview that was given by the CS for Infrastructure, James Macharia, to Citizen around December. And he was talking about how this idea was conceptualized. It was actually just, a masterstroke of genius. The CS and his team have gone to China to hold some meetings. They get to Beijing. Were they going to Beijing or were they going to Shanghai?
One of the two.
One of the two.
Yes.
From the airport to the CBD, they use this expressway. And then they start having conversations at dinner and like, it took us such a short time to actually get it. I told you, we have an expressway. Did you see the toll stations? Yeah, that's what we do. And light bulb moment. And the CS steps aside, calls the president back in Nairobi and says, Mr. President, do you remember the last time when we were in China? You saw how fast it took us to get to the CBD. Well, the president would not notice. I mean, everywhere he goes, traffic is cleared. So he was like, no, actually, this is what they're doing. Okay, they have an expressway. And I think we can do this. And we've even had a conversation with them. And yes, it's possible for us to do a PPP, blah, 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 blah. President is like, is that so? Yeah. Rotich, wapi Rotich? Panda ndege. Go meet with CS Masharia. Have a conversation with those people. Let's see whether we can implement it. Okay, brilliant. Conversations are had. Can we start doing the expressway? Yes. They come back and they begin the process. The people who this project is now handed over to, the planners at the ministry, the planners at the roads agency, Kenha, what did they do? Because when you see now here, it shows you that these people did not do what they were supposed to have done. They were told expressway, build an expressway. They said, yes, sir.
We will build.
Mr. Zhu Xiangxiang, unataka nini? You need permission. Here is we've signed.
License.
Do it. The issue of during implementation of this project, what shall we be doing? They clearly didn't put it into consideration. The issue of we have a bus terminus here, we have exits here, how is this road going to join with the other road? It was not factored in, and that's why we are seeing all this chaos. These guys have not opened a section between when you're coming from Westlands to exit at Kempinski, so that you can join Wangari Maathai Road. Mm-hmm. They haven't opened it because they've built it, and now they can clearly see
there's no exit.
This way, we cannot
create
feed
an exit
traffic
here
into this road. What? Zachary.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you okay? Are you people okay?
No, we are not.
Oh, okay. I've seen something on online, and we are hoping that Standard Group is going to stand. Is going to overcome whatever issues that we have been, made to understand. Yeah.
Oh, bloggers.
No, those are bloggers. They are bloggers trying to tarnish the.
No, we are referring to what's happening in Westlands.
I had deleted your name, and we are just going to now forward it to the pastor on Sunday.
Yeah, to Mbele.
So that you could be an item of prayer.
Okay.
And I'm still going to do it. We need the Standard Group to be there. Now, this is my point here.
Uh-huh.
Eric, I hope you know the in Central that we have got those ridges that touch the river.
Mm.
Each family has got now before the water connection now came. Yeah, we used to go fetch water from the river. Yeah? That place where the strategic point at every farm, they have got what we call Irioko. Irioko is where we go now fetch water. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, let me give my particular situation. When my dad was disputing RAD, he kind of thought that everyone could be able to now, have water, fixed water, the project's water.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, he disregarded the issue of the railway to the Irioko. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But then I raised the issue. What about that person who cannot be able to, immediately connect this water, the project water? How shall he be or she be going to the Irioko? And I said that we should have a leeway for everyone to have access to that Irioko so that he can get water without any, hurabaru, okay?
Yes.
But then I was told, oh no, don't want to poor here. Everyone is moved to fix. Now, this is my point, yeah? Who plans the so-called expressways, do the so-called what? There are guys with because those things are not being planned for pedestrians. And these guys, for you to be able to convince them that there's a person who needs a matatu, and therefore he must walk from his house to go to the matatu, they are telling no, that one happens in Somalia.
Yep.
This one, they do not remember those people. Remember, somebody was asked, yeah? How much do you think a bread costs? He said 500, yeah? I think there is that story that is being thrown around, yeah? Now, to tell that person that bread costs 70 shillings, probably, and it is also not reachable to many people, is a problem. It's the next rocket science that you need to learn and, convince that person, And you have illustrated clearly there that when the honchos are going to inspect the roads, this is the expressway. First of all, the roads are cleared, okay? So even if he is told that, everybody here has got a car, he will believe. So that is the problem. This is the problem that these people who are planning these things, they are not in touch with the ground.
Yes.
I'm very sure that the person who designed the expressway probably used the matatu, just a matatu, not even walking, a matatu, probably that 5 years ago, okay?
Yes.
What are you telling that person? I tell you that Eugene is going to move from Standard House to this place and he doesn't have here, so he will need this path. What for you to say? That guy needs to be in the Tokara or Chogi, okay?
Yes.
Have a nice day, guys.
You too, man. Have a lovely one, Zachary.
Thank you.
What are people saying on social media, Ndu?
Oh, quite a lot. So, no footpaths, no bicycle lanes, border lanes, nothing. The mindset is set on non-inclusive. Just look, all Kenyans have been taxed to build a road that less than 50 kilometers from where you will be able to move to, and you can't even afford to pay for it. Got stuck 7:40 to almost 9 o'clock, moving all over Westlands. It still continues. Transport paralyzed on Waiaki Way in Westlands, Nairobi, as matatu operators engage police in running battles, protesting of lack of stage allocation. Question is, when will the alternative be given? Westlands is at a standstill. Guys can now fly to work, possibly. Even a private car must stop at some point. Let's not make this a private versus public debate, because really nobody is moving. When they had a terminal in Westlands, matatus, they would park on the road and not use it, causing traffic. Now the terminal is gone and they want it back. That's another alternate view.
Yeah.
Matatus never use those stages anyway. They drop and pick passengers wherever they want. Others saying Westlands is a no-go zone. If you're thinking about escaping Westlands using Peponi or Red Hill, don't, because you're going to get stuck either way. It goes on and on and on. Kenyan roads were designed without any regard for those who walk, cycle, or use public transport. For instance, there is no single legal stop between the CBD and General Motors along Mombasa Road. There's just an option.
None that is legal, actually. Yeah, if you think about it. Up Makaburini, all the way into
nothing.
Actually, there
Bunyala
isn't.
roundabout.
No, there isn't. Along this express, there's
the
nothing.
Mega, after the Mega, Nyayo Stadium, nothing.
There's nothing.
Well, there is.
There is.
There is one.
Where?
At Bellevue.
At Bellevue. Opposite.
So at Bellevue, coming this way. Well, and this is because of the road, the acceleration lane.
Then the plus there's the footbridge.
And the footbridge. Because of it's the same thing that's happening here at
General Motors.
At General Motors.
No
it's because of the acceleration lane from Enterprise Road.
It creates a space.
You use the acceleration lane
as a bus stop.
As a bus stop.
Yes.
But it's not a bus stop.
If you move further and you're heading towards Nyeri Stadium from Mombasa towards town, the side of the road that is muddy and bumpy, that now serves as a bus stop. Just before you get to that huge roundabout.
Oh, yeah.
That's what serves as a bus stop. And that's where buses stop.
Let's
where
go to the phone
stop.
lines. Maina in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm very well. Lucky I'm at work already. At least we don't have traffic on Mombasa Road.
Bahati yako.
Bahati, ladba yangu, lakini my neighbors may not be as lucky.
That's it, yes.
Now, the situation in Westlands is just an amplification of what many people have said. The contractor and the people who had this vision, they don't have any consideration for mwananchi wa kawaida. People who would use matatu or walk, they're left out. Now, for example, between in Syokimau, between the Gateway Mall and Mlolongo Town is a stretch of exactly 5 kilometers.
Yep.
And that whole area on both left and right of the road is 90% residential. So majority of the people will be commuting on a daily basis on a stretch of about 5 kilometers. And again, a big chunk of them either walking or using public transportation. You only have one single footbridge. so that people on Parliament Road, on Monanchi, on Kiungani, before you cross to the other side of the road to board your matatu to town in the morning, you first of all have to take a matatu to drop you towards Mlolongo. Yeah, so you drive down for 3 kilometers, alight at a footbridge, cross to the other side, then drive and then take a matatu to drive back to town. Same for people who live on the opposite side, the nation printers and all that.
Yep.
If they have to go to the other side of the road, they have to take a matatu first to drive for 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers towards Gateway Mall, then cross over a bridge, which is not even a footbridge, it's for vehicles. So absolute disregard.
It's chaotic.
The same thing between General Motors and Bellevue.
Yep.
I fear if there's anyone who has to work on the opposite of the road, I don't know. I wish one of them would call and tell us how they navigate that section of the road.
We talk to them daily. Our colleagues, those of our colleagues who are here, and they need to cross over on the other side of the road to take public transport.
How do they do it?
Chaos. You've got to walk all the way to General Motors, cross over the footbridge, and then find your way. And now this is at Standard Group, which is closer to General Motors. People who work at Airtel have to.
So it's just absolute madness.
Yeah.
Not to mention if you're driving now and you don't have to be a pedestrian, the road is all chaotic. You have a generator in the middle of the road. You have a pillar right in. You drive and then you meet an obstacle or a ditch, and done. The road is just waiting to kill people. I'm just
true. It is
sad about it.
Thank you, Maina. Let's hear from Mohammed. Mohammed is in Isiolo. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning to you, Mohammed.
Yeah, I'm Mohammed. I'm in fact on the way to Isiolo. I left Nairobi this morning. Yeah, I think this city is in chaos, and we need a lot of involvement. Yeah, for instance, just a few minutes ago, my friend who left area around the capital center, he used the expressway to James Uhuru. He was going to James. Now he regrets that. Why did he use that? Because it took him less than 10 minutes to reach the junction of James Bureau, and then now he's starting that inner traffic up of James Bureau. We have little complaining. So I think what we want to say, my experience is that today I left in the morning around 6 to Jolo.
Yep.
We have been doing quite good road. There's this road between Canal to Marua. Very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well done. You cruise very well, and then you come to the city, and then there's gridlock.
Yeah.
Again, I think the morning I had your discussion on the average city conferences.
Yeah.
And I think we look at the plans. I live around Saudi area. And initial plans were good, anyway, because you see the assets were very well planned. And now we have this high-rise building all over. The villages are having, their own problems.
Yeah.
You will see, for instance, in Saudi, all the pavement have been taken over by shops.
Yep.
We are literally walking on the road. School children are walking on the road because the pavement have been taken over. So I think around 5, if you study traffic in Nairobi, there's chaos. Matatus all over, bikes all over. I was on around Nyayo area yesterday, Nyayo Stadium. And it was chaos. We have traffic following on the upper deck, upper chimney, like hell.
It is chaotic. Mohammed, we hear you. Thank you. Let's hear from Lynette, who is in Nairobi. Lynette, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
We're fine.
I've caught up with this conversation, I think, at the tail end. However, just listening to some of the comments and what you have talked about, people, of course, are talking about walkways, I think even space for cyclists, and I'm a driver, I know I'm maybe not the friendliest to cyclists, and not by choice, but really we're all jostling for space.
Yep.
And then the chaos around bus stops being non-existent.
Yep.
And even where they exist, and now they're fighting for a bus stop in Westlands. When it was there, they were not using it, they were still parking along the road. Other than enforcement, I think the common denominator is urban planning.
Yep.
Because if urban planning was really taken into consideration, then we would consider things such as density and the different forms of transport. There are people, of course, we have pedestrians, we have cyclists, we have drivers. All of us need to enjoy the space and coexist harmoniously.
That's true.
But the chaos is, and actually it shocked me when I heard that there are no legal bus stops along Mombasa Road, and I started thinking, hold up.
That's true,
It's
right?
actually true. Then I realized when I'm jostling with Machakos, actually they're illegal bus stops, but they're needed. We actually don't have them. Makaburini, there was a bus stop, but now it has been taken up so that it can be a lane into the expressway.
Yeah.
So there is a problem with urban planning. And another big thing, we settle for mediocrity.
That's it.
We settle for mediocrity. Because when we're not given, for instance, no bus stops, acceleration lanes, deceleration lanes, no bus stops, no walkways, no lanes for riding, we just move on with life.
We
Why
accept
do we settle for mediocrity?
and move on. That's true.
Why do we accept that?
That's true.
When the road is being constructed, when the express was being constructed, and they had to, I think, create diversions, there were like holes. These are not potholes.
It
They
was
were
chaotic
holes.
all over. Lynette, we thank you very
Yes,
much.
but there
Thank
were
you for
holes.
your
Why
call.
did we accept that? And I'm sure there's funding for that.
That's true.
So-
Thank you for your call, Lynette, and thank you very much for joining the conversation today. We'll continue with more conversations. Nick One today is saying, today now the government has to respond. He tells us, bring in the CS Macharia or the PS Maringa to the situation room and demand an explanation why they take citizens for granted. We're on the same page today, Nick. Good stuff. We've been looking for especially the CS, James Macharia, and the PS Maringa. One of these days, they will be here. And we'll have all these questions asked of them. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., we'll have a justice conversation. The Chief Justice, Martha Koome, will be with us in the studio. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
It is news. Dennis Aseto. ODM Chief Raila Odinga urged the